Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Only.
Hello and welcome to Up Only TV. I am Ledger. We've got Cobie on the line, and we've got Bob Voulgaris today. We're super excited to talk to him. Before we get all the way to it, let me tell you about FTX. FTX is our partner for this and every episode of Up Only TV. Go to uponly.tv/FTX. You can make a trade there today. Track your portfolio, of course, as you've known and loved since 2014, and you can even earn yield on your assets, 8% up to $10,000 and 5% beyond $10,000. Do it all at FTX, uponly.tv/FTX. Try it today. You'll love it. Thanks to FTX for being our partners. Let's get to the show. Cobie, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm great, mate. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Mistimed sip of water, but that's okay. That's okay. It's good to see you. And we're back.
Yeah, we made it. You did a much more professional introduction this time than you did with the founders of Paradigm the other day, where you completely messed it up.
Yeah.
So you did a good job. Bob, you've got a professional intro. That's the first time it's ever happened.
That was one of the requirements that I had before I agreed to come on the show.
It was in his writer. It was his writer.
Yeah,
specifically
you guys firm
said,
up,
Ledger, do not
firm up
this
the intro. Yeah, firm up the intro a little bit.
along
welcome.
Orange M&Ms only.
Welcome, mate. I just realized, because I tweeted out the thing, like, we're going live, and someone was like, yay, like, make sure you talk about ball too. And I was like, fuck, sport. I know nothing about sports. Don't even know what ball it is. Is it like the one that goes in the hoop or in the net thing? I don't know.
Sometimes it goes in the hoop and the net. That's kind of the way
it's just
supposed to go. Yeah.
Hoop or the net. Thank you. Basketball
Usually both.
Bob
Yeah, usually both.
Now I feel like stressed. I got to ask questions about sports. Do you like the sports? Do you like the men that do the sports?
I certainly do. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of over it now, but I was definitely a big part of my life for a while. That's for sure.
Yeah. Wikipedia says that you're one of the most prolific sports bettors of all time. Do you think that is an accolade that you feel that in your day-to-day life? You're like, you wake up and you're like, I'm one of the most prolific sports bettors of all time.
Yeah, I don't know where they get this stuff from. I mean, I try to lean into it a little bit as much as I can.
It's good clout.
Anytime someone disagrees with me, I just point to my Wikipedia profile that says I'm one of the most prolific sports bettors of all time.
I had heard to get verified on Twitter, you actually have to point to a Wikipedia profile or something like that. Like, if you don't have a Wikipedia profile, you're not important enough to be verified on Twitter. So Up Only has no Wikipedia, so we can't verify the Up Only brand, but I feel like, we'd get extra bonus points or something if we had this Twitter verified. So if somebody wants to make us a Wikipedia, I mean...
Yeah, I'm guessing by the top of the hour you'll have a Wikipedia page. Someone, it may not be the Wikipedia page you want. It may not be the Wikipedia page you want, but you'll probably have one.
I would invite really good. See what kind of creative content could be there. So you're well known for being a gambler, poker player, investor. But your claim to fame was this famous bet with betting basketball games and betting the overs in the second half under a handful of coaches that had a particular strategy. Is that roughly correct?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the story I told. I mean, that was a big part of it for sure. I think around the time that some of that stuff got out, I was doing some other stuff with basketball, and I didn't really want that to be publicized. So I kind of leaned into the halftime total thing, which is kind of my specialty when I was younger. Big part of sports betting, for people who don't know, is it's not, I mean, I would say 50% of it is being able to pick winners, and 50% of it's being able to get bets down. And getting bets down for me was always the hardest part, just because nobody wants to take a guy's bets who's got a Wikipedia page that says they're one of the most prolific sports bettors. So you have to really do a good job of obfuscating. You got to find what we call beards, which are, high profile people who are going to place bets for you. or just like random goombas who go and get like 30 to 40 accounts with XYZ bookmaker. And so a lot of the stuff I did around that time in terms of publicity wise was, it was some of it was to obfuscate a little bit. Like if we were betting full game totals, we certainly wouldn't be talking about how much money we were making betting full game totals, because we probably had some jabroni betting into Bet365 for large amounts, and we didn't want the account to get discovered. So
you would give people your old edge to tell the stories that they wanted, and then you wouldn't give away your newer edge.
Yeah, I mean, the old edge, I think everyone kind of knew about, because it just became like anytime a big halftime bet was placed, people just assumed it was me, whether it was me or not. So that was part of it for sure.
How is the transparency on those markets in terms of like the size and general activity that was occurring?
It's like a dark pool, basically. I mean, it's really misunderstood, I think, by the average person. They don't realize that you don't just roll up to the MGM casino in Vegas and be like, I want to bet on this game. I mean, you can if you're like a big fish or a big VIP whale. Yeah, certainly. But otherwise, it's just usually you're collecting hundreds, if not thousands, of smaller accounts through different intermediaries that you've done business relationships with. You place it into an auto better, which is just a bot that goes in and goes to all these websites at the same time and makes bets. And then you hope you get paid when you win. Then at the end of the week, you try to collect from they're called agents, but you try to collect from your partners basically and see if they have a payment for you or not, which, sometimes didn't happen. That's for sure. So to answer your question, not very transparent and not very, it's pretty obfuscated for sure.
Yeah. So did you get rugged a lot in that space?
I didn't get rugged a lot, to be perfectly honest. I think part of it is people realized I was going to win. And so they wanted to, even if they got stiffed, they wanted to keep getting the plays. And so they would make sure that they paid me. I definitely got stiffed around 2009-ish by a guy who was up until like around 2009 or 2010. I had one guy managing all of my betting for me. I just gave him the plays. He did all the order execution. He did all the paying and collecting, and he got a fee. And this guy rugged me for like, I don't know, 7 figures, I would say, back in 2009. Like the last 2 weeks of the NBA season, he just disappeared, went off to Nicaragua, and literally never heard from him again. Shout out to Stevie, if you're still out there listening. Congrats on that 7-figure score. It was real sharp on your part.
Do you know what he's up to now? He's just off the radar?
He's off the radar. I mean, I kind of know, like I don't think he has any money to pay, so there's really not much to do about it. But I think for a while he was working at an online sports book, and he reached out to me at one point, and he gave me like this big sob story. And then he was like, oh, well, the deal I had with you, I wasn't getting paid as much. I was doing all the work. Like I kind of earned it, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, you know what, whatever, bro. I don't have the energy to talk to this guy anymore. So, good luck to you. I think he had a weird situation with his family too. I think his wife, who was his daughter's mom, I think she had some issues. I don't know what happened personally for him, but he definitely went over the deep end and decided to just abscond with my bankroll at the time. So, or part of my bankroll.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And the sports betting world is like, you guys are you're in the UK, so it's a little bit different, but like the real sports betting world is for the most part, it's through dark pools. It's, the guys who are betting soccer really, really, or football really, really big are generally betting in Asia through illegal markets. And I mean, it's because the legal licensed sports makers just will not take a bet from someone with a pulse. Like they just won't. Unless you're like a total mouth breather, you're just not getting a bet down at Bet365 or William Hill or all these other Ladbrokes or all these places. But if you are a mouth breather, they'll take your bets, and then they'll send you like a bunch of different like responsible gambling emails. We had one guy that we set up at, I forget which sportsbook it was, but we had him set up. We created like a Wikipedia page for him, and he did have like a good backstory. He was like, his father was quite wealthy. And so we said, okay, let's get this guy an account and let's make him look like a fish. Let's get him in there. Let's get him playing blackjack. Let's get him playing. So he just went in there in the casino, played a bunch, bet a bunch of parlays, did all the stuff that a fish would do. And then when it came time to place the big winning bets, they were like, we're really worried about you as a gambler. Like, we've got some responsible gambling questions we need for you to fill out. And so the guy had to spend like an hour and a half on the phone with like a counselor, it seemed like, just to kind of prove that he didn't have a gambling problem. It was pretty interesting. I was like, wow, it's really hard. It's really hard to get on these UK bookmakers now.
Interesting.
Wait, so the house can just refuse. Like if they're like, nah, this guy's got some brain cells, we shouldn't accept a bet from him in case he knows what he's doing. But then if they're like a drunk, they'll just go, quick, sign this form to prove that you're not drunk. And they go,
yeah. No, it's really I mean, this is one of the reasons why I kind of shied away from gambling. I stopped it just because it's such an awful industry. Like there are so few. You're literally in some cases dealing with the scum of the earth in terms of like these guys who are getting you accounts. Like they're really street hustlers. I don't know how else to describe it. And then the bookmakers are like, they just want people to lose money. And so it's a real parasitic industry from the bookmakers perspective. And as a bettor, it's just not fun. And then you're getting paid, and like, you got to figure out a way to like collect the money. And then once you get it, what do you do with it? It's like back in the old days when you get paid in like, you get paid in actual cash. Like, what are you going to do with that? I mean, it's like, so it just became kind of nonsensical to me after a while.
That makes sense. Like, this is going to sound stupid. I mean, it is quite stupid, but for a long time, I thought sports betting was like a thing that was quite complex. And like, if you'd asked me what is sports betting, I would have gone, I'm not sure. But like, from talking to you, I've come to realize it's just betting on sports, isn't it?
That's what sports betting is. It's just betting on sports.
It's just literally betting on sports. I thought there was like something else to it, but it's not. There's not. It's just betting on sports.
We're gonna have to check your drink, Cobie.
Look, it's just betting on sports. That makes sense. It's clues in the name.
That's a hard hit. I wasn't prepared for that hard hitting question. Is sports betting really just betting on sports, or is there more to it?
Well, I do think this about most things in life. I'm like, I always think there should be a little bit more complexity, and they should be more difficult to understand, because when you're a child, everything's a little bit difficult to understand, and it's like very complex. As you grow up, it's like, what's this thing? Well, it's what it says it is. And the world's not mysterious anymore. It's not magical. Anyway, we spoke about sports betting for far too long. How did you get into crypto? When did it happen? How did you get addicted?
So I first heard of Bitcoin through I think it was Wired magazine wrote an article, and it was at $1. And me and my friend, my partner, who's helped me bet on sports, were like, wow, this seems really interesting. Let's get into this. And so, being the diligent, somewhat autists that we are, we spent far too much time researching it, and the price went up, and we were like, oh yeah, we missed out. Forget it. And so we didn't pursue it. And then I think it was like maybe 3 or 4 months later, we saw that it went down to like 10 cents or something like that. I forget the exact numbers. And we were like, oh, thank goodness we didn't get into Bitcoin. What a scam. Oh, wow. And then we didn't think about it again for a long time, or I didn't think about it again for a long time. Around 2012-ish, I believe it was 2012-ish. I had an agent in China who I was betting a lot of sports with. And I was trying to get paid for a while, and he was like, oh, I can send you Bitcoin. And I was like, well, Bitcoin. Oh, I was like, Bitcoin. I started thinking about it again. And he's like, yeah, everyone in China loves Bitcoin. So I was like, okay, if everyone in China loves Bitcoin, maybe I should love Bitcoin too. And so he paid me in Bitcoin. I just kept those initial coins. And then slowly thereafter just went down the rabbit hole and just never really, then I became like a full Bitcoin acolyte. Like I just was just like, I thought this is the greatest. Wow, this guy can pay me instantly, and I can see that I've got it, from someone who would have to like chase people around to get paid. Oh, the wire was sent. Yeah, like, and set up all these different ways of getting paid. Bitcoin just seemed like the answer for me, and so then that's how it started. It seems around 2012 or 2013.
So many people who had horror stories about getting paid, whether it was from gambling or well, I guess poker is gambling, but like we're nailing it today. But from like the sports side of things, or like in-house gambling, poker sites and all that kind of stuff, like everybody's just got these horror stories of how terrible it was to get paid, and that was kind of the avenue into crypto. Do you think the process of like all the ways that you learn to think and the other things that you've done in life also prepared you to do crypto, or like invest in crypto, or analyze the ecosystem at all?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I think a big part of it for me was just the fact that it was just governed by math. And so when I found something that was governed by math, I was just kind of like, I really got into it at that point. Just the visibility and open source nature of it. You can see exactly what's going on. You know what's going on. The distribution schedule is there for you. It's governed by math. It's governed by code. I like that. And so that was part of it for sure. The other part of it is I was really keenly aware of especially living in Canada at the time, of just like how fucked the Canadian economy was and how fucked the Canadian dollar was and how all this stuff was just kind of waiting to kind of blow up at some point. And so that was a big part of it as well. I think around then, a little bit later on when Brexit happened, I think that's when I became like even more emboldened as because I thought, okay, this is something that you can kind of insulate yourself from, you know, government policy and idiotic government ideas and ideologies, and you can just kind of do things the way you want to. So I was a big fan. I mean, I was blown away by it once. I wish I got into it earlier. Like I think everyone has the same story. They hear about it 3, 4, 5 times. They don't really, because it's really hard to like, okay, I have coins, but I don't have coins. It's just, I have the key to open up the coins and this is my key, but really the coins don't exist. Like when you try to explain to someone, you can just see them, it just washes over them. But once you kind of wrap your head around it, it's really elegant and it makes sense. So.
Yeah, I think I relate a lot to what you said about this sort of like it's politically neutral. It's this thing that exists in the world that no matter your local government policy, it's just something that you can like trust and go, all right, this is mostly going to be unaffected. I guess if you're living in China and all the miners get shut down, then maybe it's slightly politically affected. But
for sure.
Yeah, like with Brexit or with the US elections and stuff, you have to think like about how it will impact the dollar rather than how it will impact Bitcoin. Like, you know, Biden's gonna nominate Jerome again to keep the printer going, and you think, okay, what are the implications of that for Bitcoin? But you never have to think, are Bitcoin going to is the like Bitcoin community going to do something super weird? Are they going to decide to print more Bitcoins in an emergency order or something?
By the way, I think they probably will decide at some point to print more Bitcoins. Like if you look at the supply distribution, I don't know. I mean, we'll be dead probably, so it won't matter. But yeah. I mean, what is going to incentivize people to mine this chain going forward if there's no more coins being produced or not enough? And I think transaction fees are part of it, but I don't think it's enough for the people who talk about $1 million, $2 million, $3 million Bitcoin or whatever a coin. It's like that's a huge value to the network itself, and I'm not sure the transaction fees are going to be able to sustain that type of security that's going to be needed. But I don't know. That's a topic for another day. I'm not 100% convinced of it, but I do think it's possible.
That's a pretty interesting hot take. I never hear about anybody talking about that being possible. Like some people talk about, switch to like the SAT standard or something like that, just from a denomination perspective. But you're saying like, can you manage the security of the network itself? Like incentivize people to secure the network when all you get is transaction fees and you've got $21 million Bitcoins.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I think you might just have like a soft, like a hard fork where you can have like OG original Bitcoin, and some people continue to mine that, and other people will want to mine the Bitcoin that is still producing at like whatever the inflation rate is for a given like economic format of the world. I would say like 1% to 3%, whatever the inflation rate that's necessary to keep it going. I mean, if you look at Bitcoin, like I've said this to everyone, it's like it's so well thought out. The idea that everything, all of it, the game theory part of it, the part where you're not really going to try to hack the network because you might as well just mine the network and make more money that way. All that stuff is really, really elegantly thought out. I don't know, and I haven't spent a ton of time on this, but I started thinking about it a little bit more recently. I don't know what the solution is for, what they have planned for when there's just no more coins. I mean, when there's like 0.000, because it's always gonna be halved, so I'll never go to zero, but the reward's gonna be very, very tiny at some point.
Yeah, I forgot what year it is that the last
2140, I think. Is that what it is? 2140.
Like yeah, so we'll all be dead apart from Hillary Clinton.
So. Speak for yourself, bro. I don't know. I'm planning on. I'm going in the freezer. I'm drinking this whatever this pink juice is that's supposed to keep me alive.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 2140. I think there's been a bunch of debates. I think Hasu talks about this quite a lot, in that the economic activity on the Bitcoin chain right now does not provide a like good enough security model for the valuation of the network, and therefore there needs to be a lot more on-chain activity or fees generated somehow for miners. Otherwise, mining will be a loss-making activity. But then I think Loomdat talks a lot about how nation states will be the miners in the future, and it will be just a cost of infrastructure for like the global economy, basically. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought about it enough before, because it's one of those things where like I'll probably be dead, and if I'm not dead, then I can think about it in 100 years. Yeah, in 100 years, I'll be like, maybe time to start thinking about this thing. We're 30 years away still. So
we're gonna be such. I mean, how like even when we're like 85 or 90, like I'm sure we think right now we're gonna be on the cutting edge of all this stuff, but we're just gonna be like sipping our juice box in homes, not like not knowing, while kids are like living in the metaverse, we're just gonna be in the real world, like wondering where everyone is and why they're walking around with fucking glass implanted in their skulls.
How are you gonna feel when your son or daughter comes home and they say they're getting married to a CryptoPunk?
I'm ready for it. Yeah, I don't have any sons or daughters, so I think I've gotten a ways away from that. So it'll give me some time to prepare. But yeah, I think I'm ready for it.
Bring it on! Bring on the metaverse for your children. That makes me nervous as someone with children. I'm not prepared for my kids' relationships to exist solely within the metaverse.
It's funny. I went to like this. Yeah, it's funny. I went to like this dinner/poker game with like some like really big hitters, like VC guys in Silicon Valley, like kind of famous guys, whatever. And there's some crypto people that were just not into crypto. There was like some real skeptics there. And we look over, we're having this outdoor dinner, and we look over inside, and there's 4 kids. One of them's literally got the fucking thing on, and he's doing this. the other 3 are just glued to their pads, and one of them's playing PlayStation. And it's like, oh yeah, I could see how you just really aren't into like look at these guys. You think they're going to be into like real money, real financial stuff? You think they're going to be living in the metaverse? I mean, your kid's literally walking around with a giant fucking helmet on, swiping at imaginary things. And so it is interesting, like how much, like when I was a kid, I didn't get on a computer until I was like 14 or 15. And now kids are just, it's like their babysitter. It's like their entertainment. It's like the iPad is just permanently attached to their hands for some kids.
It's just how it's going to go extinct. Like,
it's just different for sure. It's different.
It's not going to be any reproductivity anymore. Like we're just going to go away. It's going to be like the blow off top on humanity.
Could very well be. I mean, there'll be a lot of breeding. There'll be like Gen 0, Gen 2 breeding in the metaverse for sure, of like some cat of some sort. Some hybrid species. Yeah, some hybrid species.
Wow.
How do you feel like about the metaverse stuff? Because I know you do a bunch of NFTs, and I know that you allegedly. Yeah, allegedly you got a portfolio. Is it like, how do you feel about it? Is it speculative? Is it a long-term thing for you? Do you think they're like artifacts in the future metaverse, or is it just like, you're a bit bored?
I think so I am into NFTs, but I'm really into like the 2017 era NFTs. Like I'm really into CryptoPunks. I'm really into the stuff that was kind of like the OG NFT. So like for me, this new stuff, yeah, Ether rocks, great community there. So to me, it's like I'm kind of a skeptic, but I'm also not. Like I do believe in CryptoPunks a lot. I think art is all about the story. It's all about the narrative. And that's a great story. These things were given away. People got them. They didn't even know they had them. It was fair. I mean, the founders kept some, gave away the rest as long as you're willing to mint the gas fee. And then people forgot about them for like 3-4 years for the most part. Not entirely, but certainly the crypto world forgot about them. Yeah, no one really cared about them. And so I like that for sure. Like I like the fact that there's only like 9 aliens in the world and they're scarce. But the other stuff, I don't know. Like I tried messing around with like some of these other things that are happening, and it just makes me feel old. Like I don't know. I'm looking at. I mean, it's interesting because it makes me feel. It definitely keeps me young, but it also, after a while, it's like it's. I tweeted this the other day, and it's so true. Like DeFi, NFTs, all this stuff is just a giant game of whack-a-mole. Like I learned Ethereum, learned how to farm on Ethereum. then learn Matic, and then, oh, now there's a new chain. Now there's Solana. Oh, now there's Arbitrum. Now you have to learn to get your stuff to AVAX. Oh, then there's Phantom. It just never ends. And it's like, it's just, to me, it's just too much after a while. So I'm just like, I like the old stuff. Yeah. I love the old historical 2017 products. I don't like the newer 21 farm, whatever. What is it? Wolf game or whatever. Like this stuff to me is like, I got some Gen Zero wolves. I farmed them for wool. And now they gave me a plot of land. Great. And now I got to buy a farmer. Yeah, that's where I'm out. I'm out when you tell me I got to buy a farm and a farmer when I just had a couple wolves. That's where I'm out. I'm tapping out right there. I don't have enough time to keep up with this stuff.
All this humble farmer is still just working sun up to sundown, trying to make a living.
Yeah, it's like this guy, the shepherd, is like tweeting at these people as though he's like words from above, right? The gospel. The shepherd is like tweeting at these people and telling them about all these changes that are happening to Wolf Game. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm out. I don't have time to tend to a farm. Oh, I can get a farmer. I got to train him. I'm not interested in that sort of thing. So I'm out.
I don't even bother with these things anymore. I don't have time for that because they're all going to end up like this. They can't just like sell you a thing and fuck off like they did 6 months ago. Now they've got to pretend that they're going to do some stuff, and they got maybe they'll do a little bit. It won't make sense. They'll just add a Ponzi on top of the Ponzi they just created. But like now they've got to do all this complicated stuff. It's like, oh, I don't care. I'm not bothering. It's like it's too late.
This is what I really don't like about crypto for the most part is these people are so eager to put something into market that they don't think about the long-term implication of it. So give you an example, like there's like Larva Labs, for instance, they created CryptoPunks, great. They created an interface for it, but they didn't build in a thing in the contract where they could get like a fee per transaction when they're trading back and forth, like you can on OpenSea or whatever, right? And so because of that, then they created MeBits, and they kept some of the MeBits, which was just a cash grab for them. And they weren't really well received by the community. And I think because of that, the punks themselves lost a little bit of cachet. And so that type of stuff to me, and then like, okay, I was on this bridge platform Nerve, and they released, but they didn't really think about what happened when people wanted to collect their Nerve. So then they switched over to, they changed the rules of the game, and then they turned into a completely different bridge, Synapse. And so you just have that happen where people will just launch stuff. They're so eager to launch. They're so eager. They want to make money. Then they realize, oh, we didn't really thoughtfully think through this ecosystem and how we're going to maintain profitability or how we're going to get paid. So what do we do? Well, let's just change the rules of the game. Let's create some more, like, let's create another cash grab. And so that's what I like about Bitcoin, is that there isn't any of that. Like, it moves slow, it's glacial in its nature, but you can trust that it's going to be operating, like another block's going to be mined. It's going to keep on continuing on. And so I like that. I like the certainty of it. Whereas some of these other products, they kind of give me the heebie-jeebies a little bit because they aren't decentralized. These people vote on what changes they're going to make. And at the end of the day, everyone's just trying to make money. None of these guys are trying to change the world. And I think Satoshi was trying to change the world. And so I like that. So that's why I'm more of a Bitcoin maximalist, although I find the Bitcoin maximalist to be super toxic and cringy.
Well, I think part of what makes it more interesting is that you come to that conclusion, but you've played with everything, like you're farming shit coins on shit chains and with shit NFTs, and you just sort of like, all right, this is
my NFT, my NFTs are not, let's just, my NFTs that I have, my CryptoPunks are not shit. But yeah, no, I think you have to be that way. You have to try stuff out, and you have to look. And the other part of it is that people like money. And so, yeah, I love Bitcoin, but I can buy this VC coin that I know is going to pump because everyone's incentivized to pump it. Yeah, I'll probably buy some of that. Sounds good. I've never downloaded a Solana wallet, but I'm certainly going to buy some Solana. I tried playing on it for a while, and I was like, yeah, it's not for me. And, went offline for how many hours, but didn't matter. Didn't impact the price. I mean, think about how crazy that is. Their entire network just went offline.
Amazing.
And the price just kind of like, fine, no problem. We'll get it tomorrow.
I'm long Solana right now, so I choose not to FUD it.
Yeah,
turning.
I am too, but
the price went up. It was a bullish network takedown.
Yeah, it really
network went down. It was like $100. Anyway, no one can sell. They can't move the coins to sell, so it's bullish. Network's down.
I think it showed that they could recover from anything at that point, right? So why would if we can overcome the network going down, then what can't we overcome? I think was the idea. But yeah, I definitely got involved in that, not as early as I should have. I mean, it's interesting because it's so hard to, like, AVAX is another one. I mean, it seems like the same people who are incentivized to pump Solana have just now moved on to AVAX, and they're pumping AVAX. And I'm sure that I'll be a little bit smarter the next time. I'll be a little more sharper to the inflows of these coins, because it's just a giant, they're just playing a giant game of like musical chairs from coin to coin to coin to coin. Like Ethereum was the coin that was going to overthrow Bitcoin. Now Ethereum's junk and Solana's better. Oh no, AVAX is much better. I'm in AVAX. It's just interesting how these guys just jump around, but they're making money, so more power to them.
Yeah, I do like what you said about, it's worth trying everything and like making money. One thing I find interesting about the Bitcoin maxis is that they have this sort of, stack sats at any cost type mentality. It's like stack sats no matter what. You heard the Saylor speech, like mortgage your house and all that shit. And it's like stack sats at any cost, put your savings in, like take a loan, whatever. And you're like, okay, what about if I buy a dog coin for a bit and then sell it for more Bitcoin later? They're like, no. Don't go that far. Like, yeah, mortgage your house and sell a family business, but don't you dare hold a dog coin for 2 weeks.
I have to believe that even most of these guys are doing this stuff. They're just, I don't know. I mean, I maybe not. I don't know. Some of them maybe not. I mean, I listened to the spaces where it was like 7 Bitcoin maximalists and Mark Cuban on a treadmill getting just like just bombarded with like takes, and every other word was shitcoin this, shitcoin that, and it was just kind of funny to me. Like, I don't get it. Like, you got into Bitcoin because you were open-minded. You had to be open-minded, and I think part of it is people just don't like the idea of missing out. And once they've missed out, they dig in deeper, and they missed out on this, and that's a big learning part of life is being able to adapt and realize that, oh, I missed out on this. What can I learn? How can I improve going forward? That sort of thing.
I think it could be two ways. One could be they missed out on like additional gains, and another could be like they've made it to a degree where they lose their curiosity a bit because they're rich, they've made it, they've done it, and like they're like, all right, this is just a scam. I got rich doing a different scam. You know what I mean? Like it's so it takes a special personality to constantly want to dig into these things when you kind of got somewhere with what you know.
Sure. I wonder about that too, because I wonder, like, these guys, I've been around people that are like euphoric about gains. Like, these people don't strike me like they have made enough money in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't strike me as people who are just like, oh, wow, this is great. Like, I think one thing about Bitcoin is like Bitcoin, I always say this to friends, like Bitcoin equals regret. Like, no matter how much Bitcoin you have, you could always have more. You could have always gotten in a little bit earlier if only you hadn't sold, etc. So I think there's a part of that, but I do think that a lot of these guys who've been around forever, I think part of the reason why they're so toxic about it is because they probably don't have as much as they should. And if they were as fervent in their beliefs, they would have went all in, or they would have done something. And I think that's hard to do. I think, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I think it attracts a certain type of people to begin with that are just a little bit off, and they're a little bit counterculturally. But then once you get there, yeah, just be a little bit more open-minded. I don't know. I don't get it.
Or
I mean, at the end of the day,
they might remember a time when they had 100 BTC or 1,000 BTC, and now they only have 10% of that because they went through a cycle of buying altcoins and believing in this flipping for more sats dream, got wrecked, and now they have less, and they have no capacity or avenue towards getting more. Like, that's a
I wonder about that. I kind of wonder how many of these guys got burnt in 2016, 2017 buying like Raven coin and Dark coin and all these other nonsense coins. Like, that could be it too. I don't know. Yeah. Or maybe they just really believe and they just want to keep, it's them, it's a religion. I don't know.
I think
it's an interesting thought.
I think the best of them really believe. Like, there's some people that I think like are in it. Like, I think of the Tales from the Crypt guys, like Matt Odell as somebody that I really like, who's very much a Bitcoin maximalist, but like just really believes. I don't think he envies like all the whatever altcoin gains and some of those types of things. I think some of those people I really, really respect. And then there's a bunch of people with all these other reasons why they are toxic, Yeah. And I think there's a lot of ways to get to that result.
I think just like calling anything that's not Bitcoin a shitcoin just proves to me like that you just don't have the capacity to think. Like, if you really believe that anything that's not Bitcoin is a shitcoin, then there's just something wrong with you. Like, mentally, there's something wrong with you. Because it's just like such a ridiculous take to have. Like, think about how crazy that is. Like, oh, shitcoin has to be a shitcoin. Some of these coins are shitcoins. Yeah, that's true. Like 99% of them are probably shitcoins. but some of them actually have uses. Like, it's pretty hard to not say that Ethereum doesn't have uses. I mean, people are using Ethereum every day, all the time for stuff. Yeah, the gas is expensive. Yeah, the fees are high. And yeah, that's a big problem. It doesn't make it a shitcoin. It just means a lot of people want to use it. There's a huge demand for the product. And so, yeah, it's interesting to me, but I don't know. I'm probably going to get a bunch of Bitcoin haters now, but the thing I find is, like, I have been at various times in my life 100% all in on Bitcoin, and I've never sold through any of these downturns. I never capitulated, but yeah, I'm a huge believer in it, but I'm also just realistic in that some of these other coins will probably appreciate more in the next little while, and that's fine.
Yeah, I think there's a few things interesting with, like, the really, really toxic maxis. I think part of it is they missed out on all these other things doing well. Part of it is there's a community of people, and the internet these days is just like, find a group of people and you make friends with them by all chanting the same words, right? Like, they just all sit around together and chant shitcoin and go to Twitter spaces with Udi and go, Udi, you're wrong. And Udi's like, what's going on? And they're just like, Ethereum's a shitcoin. And he's like, no, it's not. And then they do it the next day as well. And that's just their social life. It's the third place. Like, they go to work, they come home, they need some people to hang out with online. There's been a pandemic. They don't have friends anymore. It's weird. And they've found this friend group where the thing that they have in common is they call Ethereum a scam. And that's nice if they can find some kind of solace or some kind of a community and bonding in that hobby. So I think part of it is like missing out on stuff. Part of it is just like having a friend group that believes the same thing you do and feeling like you've got some purpose, and like maybe you're promoting Bitcoin by doing this weird stuff. And then I think the last bit is a bit nuanced. I think they want to get rich too. They missed out on all these other things going up, and they think, well, if these scams weren't allowed, imagine how much higher Bitcoin would be now.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's double missing out. Not only did I buy the wrong thing, or like I didn't hold the thing that went up, they stopped my thing going up because all these idiots have gone to Robinhood to buy something stupid. And that's
for sure.
Now I'm not going to make the money I deserve. And they need to know that it's a scam. So I think it's a bit of those things mixed together. The thing I find the most interesting about Bitcoin maxis is everything's a shitcoin. If it's a token, it's shit. NFT shit, whatever, bad. Anything with a pre-mine, anything where the founders own anything, bad. And you have to wonder about how it's going to play out over the next couple of years for Bitcoin, because do you have DeFi on Bitcoin ever? There's people building on like permissioned side chains and stuff. You've got like Stacks or whatever it's called, Bitcoin DeFi, building stuff. They've got a token. The founders own some of the token. It's basically the same model as any Ethereum. But
the Bitcoin maxis were going off on the Stacks guide. They were just calling it a shitcoin.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. So it's interesting. So like, what happens? How do you build something on Bitcoin if you're not allowed to deploy capitalism and founders are not allowed to value capture? They're promoting like Bitcoin socialism. So where everything you build on top of Bitcoin has to equally benefit all Bitcoin holders. Like, you can't take more benefit for yourself. It's got to be for all of the existing Bitcoin holders. You can't like capture value as a builder, which is super interesting. And I think it's going to play out a bit weird. And that's the bit where the immune system starts attacking itself. It's like, for sure, that's strange.
Bitcoiners are crazy. You heard it here first.
No. I mean, I think a debt of gratitude is owed to a lot of these people for being this way, because they did push Bitcoin forward when Bitcoin wasn't really that popular, and they've done a lot of things like the Blockstream guys. Like, Blockstream is basically a corporation. Yeah, they're a private company that's trying to make money, and their brand is Bitcoin maximalism with a side chain, a side plate of corporate governance and whatever they're doing on their own to make money. And so I think there's a little bit of hypocrisy there, because there really isn't that much difference between like a private company like Blockstream building stuff, like they're working on Lightning, doing this, doing that, doing the satellite stuff that they're doing, helping out with this bond thing in El Salvador, which is a whole other shit show of interest. And then being like, okay, everything else is a shitcoin and no one else should be able to build on anything else. And anything that wants to build on top of Bitcoin, if it's an extra token. I don't know. I'm a little bit torn on it all, because I do think the network needs people to build on it, and it doesn't need to have developers, obviously, and there's a foundation. And I don't have a problem with a company like Blockstream wanting to build on top of it. I have a problem with a lot of the people who work there automatically calling everything else a shitcoin, because at the end of the day, there's going to be side chains on Bitcoin. There's going to be, I look at Ethereum and all these other coins as just side aspects of crypto. And yeah, I can do a little bit of stuff on Ethereum. Then I can decide to buy Bitcoin. I can move my USDC, which is an Ethereum-based coin, over to FTX if I want to, and buy more Bitcoin. Like there's all kinds of stuff that everything is still disengaged from the fiat system. So I don't really see what the problem is. But I guess there's definitely some tribal aspects to all this stuff that we're probably missing out on because we're just not that tribal to begin with as individuals. So
I wonder, there's not a lot of like Bitcoiner hate towards stablecoins, but I wonder why not, given it seems to me that stablecoins eliminated one of the most fun use cases of Bitcoin as being like the on-ramp into all the other coins. Whereas now you can basically buy or sell from your altcoin to USD and, use the USD pairs. And it was always the Bitcoin relative pair before. And like that onboarded so many people into essentially flowing back into Bitcoin. But there's no hate towards stablecoins or anything.
I think, I don't know. I think a lot of it is because a lot of these guys aren't quite as maximalist as they think they are, or they say they are. And when they want to sell, they don't want to sell to fiat, and they want to get out because they think the price is going up or it's going to go down, excuse me. And so they probably sell into stable coins, and they like that. So they use the stable coins in that regard. And they're probably trading in some ways. I doubt they're all selling to their bank account for cash and then wiring the money back to the exchange to buy more, or local Bitcoins or whatever, Swan Bitcoin, whatever fucking thing they're using to buy Bitcoin nowadays. And so, yeah, that's probably part of it. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not sure why either, because there isn't a stable coin that operates on the Bitcoin network. So like yeah, maybe that'll change.
Bitcoin or, whatever.
Yeah. I'm sure they're building stuff. I'm sure that there's some stuff happening, but I just follow the updates, the BIPs or whatever. And it's just, that's what makes Bitcoin great, is it's slow. Like you can't have an asset that's worth like $1 trillion or whatever and expect to be like, oh, we're going to change this. Let's do this right now. Like Ethereum's going to, or like some of these other coins are. It has to be trustworthy if you want institutions and large funds to invest in it, which I think is the huge part that Bitcoin has over. That's the thing Bitcoin has over all these other coins, is it's investable and at scale. And if a country is going to put something on their balance sheet, it's going to be Bitcoin. It's probably not going to be Ethereum. It's most definitely not going to be Solana or something like that, I wouldn't think. And so that part of it to me is interesting. And that's the bullish case for Bitcoin for me, is the hyper Bitcoinization, when countries are starting to put it on their sovereign wealth sheet and all that other stuff on their balance sheet. But it probably won't outperform random shitcoin 3065 that gets promoted on Wall Street Bets or through Elon's Twitter or some other nonsense, whatever nonsense of the day is happening.
So you made a lot of money in life, and you've dug into crypto, you've had fun, you've made money in crypto, you've done well. Like where's your ambition lie today? Like you don't seem to have a significant like moral thesis for why you're a crypto person or anything like that. So like, is it about making more money? Is it about having fun and enjoying yourself? I think it's about sovereign.
I think like it's about sovereignty, like really, to be perfectly honest. Like I like the fact that I can be in control of my finances and my dollars aren't being inflated away. Like I look at my life, I've had basically, I worked for myself from the age of 21 to like 40, whatever. And I've always been an individual in that sense. I've never really identified as like someone who wants to be like a part of a large community. I've always been kind of like a bit of an individual. And I think, so that's the main reason for it. I also it's less about making money. It's more about protection. I'm more in like a wealth preservation game right now. And I think it is the number one way to preserve your wealth, is to have your money in crypto assets, as crazy as that sounds. I would much rather have Bitcoin than dollars, not close. And so like, I never really have sold. Like I bought way back when. I've really never sold my Bitcoin. Like I just don't. Like I don't think there's many people who can say they held through all of the downturns and didn't capitulate ever and had like a huge shortfall. I just never have. In fact, I went bananas in 2018, 2019 buying more with whatever other little dollars I had. So yeah, I don't know. To answer your question, I wish you didn't ask, because I really don't have a good, like, it makes me think a little bit more, but I like to think I'm thinking about things but I'm actually thinking about the things that I'm doing, but maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just doing it because I just want to do it. I don't know. It's a weird thing to think about. Like my goal before was always to buy a basketball team. You need like, $1 billion to buy a basketball team, whatever, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. And so that was kind of the carrot I was chasing. But then like when I got kind of close to it, I was just like, I don't really want to sell my Bitcoin for basketball
Oh,
team
that's
that
gonna
returns
be my question. That was gonna be my question. I was like,
returns like 4% a year, and then you know, I don't know. It's like seems like a lot of you're definitely not able to. One thing I learned is that fans are batshit insane. Like they are really, really insane. Like the word fan comes from fanatic for a reason, and I'm just not sure I'm ready for that type of like. I don't know, it takes a special type of person just to have people like yelling at you all the time or talking about what you're doing and not have it bother you, I think. And I think it bothers me less than it bothers most people, but it's still not something I want to invite into my life necessarily.
So having a tenure close to a basketball team inside the organization saved you from selling Bitcoin to buy a team someday.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. Well, the one thing is these teams trade so infrequently that there never really was an opportunity. And I wasn't really necessarily in a financial situation until we got like to all-time highs to really, really realistically want to do it. But yeah, maybe, I don't know. I'm glad I did it because it opened my eyes up a little bit. At the end of the day, it's like, it's still a game. And these guys are you have to really, and I'm more power to them for really like life and death, thinking this is like the most important thing in the world. Because most of the people involved in the NBA do believe that. And I think for me, it's just kind of like, it's fun. I love it, but I don't know that I want to make it my life's fucking goal at this point.
What do you think about the cultural elements of like basketball and a lot of basketball players getting into crypto and NFTs and stuff, and then how that blends? Like, does it worry you about where we are in the cycle? Do you think it's cool to see, your worlds collide a bit? What are your thoughts?
A little bit, yeah. Like I remember, yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of cool. It doesn't worry me at all where we are in the cycle because I don't pay attention too much to that stuff. I mean, I don't think we're anywhere near at a euphoric level at all. Like I look back at where we were in 2017 around Thanksgiving time, US Thanksgiving time, and that's all people were talking about. It's not the case now. I don't think there's like this manic euphoria. But yeah, do I worry about that? No, not really. I think it's kind of cool. The culture's colliding a little bit. I think if you are someone who believes in some of the stuff that a lot of young people believe in, which is like, protest cause or cultural causes, I think Bitcoin and crypto in general are pretty good. It's a pretty big protest movement to decide that you want to like protest the dollar. I'm surprised that hasn't taken hold a little bit more. Everyone's gotten into all this idea of like systemic racism and all these other things that are like underpinning the American society, but they don't really realize how the dollar and the way the government controls the money supply impacts that. And I think the ultimate protest, like if you want to go to a protest and go outdoors and protest, great, but why not protest with your wallet if you can as well? I get a lot of people aren't financially able to, but I wish people were a little bit more educated on that, their ability to just stack small amounts of Bitcoin and opt out of the financial system in some ways.
Cobie, what are you thinking about there? You have a look on your face.
I was reading the comments about people not believing that you're in your 40s. And then people were saying that you were in Spider-Man, and I was really confused by it, but I figured out that they're just saying you were like Jake Gyllenhaal.
Hey, I've been worse.
Bob's
been called worse for sure.
TB12 diet, just go ahead and do your promo so we get Tom Brady on the show next.
Yeah, just good, clean living on the TB12 diet. Me and Tom discuss our. No.
I have no idea what that means. And then people just started insulting my
It's more sports ball. Sorry.
What is the last one there, Cobie? What was the last one?
People just started dissing my tan. They were like complimenting you, saying that you looked really young, and then it was like, "How come Cobie only had a tan for one day?" Look, I'm British. We just go straight back to being pale and like translucent.
You look great right now. I don't know if it's the lighting or what, but you look spectacular.
Thanks, mate. I was in Africa for a month, living on an island.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it was quite nice. I did healthy shit for once. Yeah, so I want to know a little bit more about like how, you've fallen into crypto, you got into it, you heard about it, didn't do anything, got into it properly. Like at what point did your conviction like double down? What point did you like really know, okay, yeah, like I'm right here?
Yeah, it's tricky. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I would say like, I think once once we had like the first cycle and then it collapsed, and then I was like doing some on-chain stuff, and I think Paul Tudor Jones talked about this as well. Like the very few people that sold their coins when it went down like 90% or 80%, like that to me was like when I thought, okay, I was right. But even before then, I don't know, just like looking at, like, I'm a guy who lived in Canada, paid my taxes. I was like one of the only Canadians to ever have to pay taxes gambling, because gambling is not taxable in Canada, but they determined that I was a professional for whatever reason. And so I left and went,
page, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Went and lived in Monaco became a Monaco resident to avoid that situation. And then you just deal with like these private banks, and you're dealing with all of these people that are just basically chopping away at your profit at all times. Like they're taking fees here, fees there. And I just kind of, there was like some stuff. I was doing business with some people in Russia at the time. And it was like around the time I think Putin was allegedly meeting with Vitalik Buterin, or he met with him. Yeah. and I
forgot about that.
Yeah. And I just thought, like, okay, here's a guy who, and I'm careful, I don't want to get poisoned here, but here's a guy who's basically taken every dollar he can out of his country. And he has robbed his whatever he's done. And then you look at like all his family friends just happen to own apartments in London, and they're all very wealthy. And I'm like, there's thousands of guys like that all over the world, as much as, and I don't mean to mean this, but like people like that, the offshore banking market is a massive market. It just is, like, in the trillions. So that was part of it. Gold also, like the idea that people are going to walk around and carry gold everywhere they go, pay someone to store their gold. Nobody really has gold. They either have paper gold or they have gold on a deposit somewhere, in which case it might as well be not your gold anyways, because if they're going to they're going to come for the gold, they're going to take it away from you. It's not like you're going to be able to. And so I just thought Bitcoin kind of solves all this stuff. Like it solves the idea of the government inflating away your money. The idea that like these fiat currencies are going to last forever. I think like 150 some odd years is the longest it's ever. Like I think the US like at 145 right now is being like the de facto reserve currency. So I never really had like, I think this. It was just like an amalgamation of things. And then once I started to get into it a little bit more, I started to realize just like the ramifications of it, and how hard it is, how easy it is for this coin to go up. Like it just, like you see it all the time. Like you hold through 3 to 4 year bear cycles for like 1 month or 2 months or 3 months of absolute manic euphoria. But that's just how it works. I mean, it's a highly reflexive asset. It goes up massively. The supply isn't really there to sustain itself if enough people want it. Like everyone's like, 21 million coins, how many millionaires are on the world? Like, yeah, that's kind of nonsense, but it's also kind of accurate, you know? And so, yeah, that's a long-winded answer to say, well, I don't know. I don't really know when. I just kind of built on it for a while. Like I was certainly of this mindset in 2015, 2016. It's all I wanted. I never wanted to get paid in anything else. Someone paid me in something, I automatically bought. I would keep a little bit just to fund my meager, modest lifestyle that I have. Okay, and the rest is Bitcoin. That's just kind of what I've done with myself for a long time.
I know about your modest lifestyle, mate.
Yeah, forest or something behind you right now.
I think it's just a hedge. I think it's just a hedge.
Yeah, rainforest.
It's a good hedge. I like hedging.
Yeah, it's a nice hedge.
How did you manage to maintain a job and like focus on a job and do a job well? Throughout all this stuff happening in the background, were you just ignored it, kind of like that's going to do its thing? And, like,
yeah, you just kind of, it doesn't bother me. Like I think like one of the things that suited me really well is like when you're gambling for 15 years and someone makes a half court shot and you just lost 250,000. Like you don't get fucked up by the swings if you want to be successful. Like if you watch poker players, they're all like these robots who just sit there like and have no pulse, right? Like they're just very, very, very monotonous in their emotions. And I think that's part of it. And so to do my job, it was just like, I didn't really sweat it. Like I remember the first year I moved to Dallas, Bitcoin went on its like slow death march from like 9,000 to 6,000 and then the bottom dropped from 6,000 to 3,000. And I remember our head coach knew like my Bitcoin position because I just confided in him one day, just like whatever. And we're in a coaches meeting and this guy is just like, it was kind of funny, but there was like this moment where I had sat courtside I asked him, I was like, hey, I have courtside season tickets to the Lakers. We're playing the Lakers. Would you mind if I sat in my seats for the game? Or do you think that would be too much of a distraction? I don't want to be a distraction. He's like, no, go for it. Sit in your seats. So I sat in my seats, whatever, brought a girlfriend of mine sat there. It definitely did become a distraction. Like all the players on the team, like, what the fuck is like gambler Bob doing sitting next to Lionel Richie at the Lakers game? like one of our players is like, oh, Floyd Mayweather, Lionel Richie, Bob the gambler, makes sense. Yeah, why wouldn't he be sitting there? And so we're in New Orleans, and Bitcoin is like dropped to like 3,200, I think, at the time. And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm hating life. Like I'm not feeling great, but it's not like impacting me too much, you know? And so like this coach decides, like in the middle of a coaches meeting, he's like, where are you sitting tonight? And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just probably sitting in the locker room and watch a game in the locker room. He's like, oh, you're not sitting courtside? And I'm like, no, I don't have courtsides in New Orleans. And he's like, oh. And he's like, well, we can get you like decent tickets if you want. Like I can get you some tickets. I'm like, no, if I want to sit, I'll just buy them. And he's like, well, why would you buy them? We can get them for free. And this went on for like 10 minutes of like, because he would say something, there'd be a giant pause. Nobody else would say anything because most of the other assistants are just like kind of terrified of the head coach in some ways. And he goes, well, I don't want you buying your own tickets. I'm like, I'm fine. I can afford it. He's like, well, I just saw the price of Bitcoin. I'm not sure that you can afford it anymore. I was just like, what the fuck? So that was like really the only time where it really impacted the job in any way.
Nice bottom.
And then, yeah, that was a bottom signal for sure. And then fast forward to like 2 years later, and you know, some of our coaches are like going around like checking their Coinbase every minute of every day. Because they're somehow have gotten into Bitcoin for whatever reason. And it was kind of funny. Like it went from like, I was a clown who had Bitcoin to like everyone else went 2 or 3 years later when Elon was tweeting about Bitcoin nonstop, positively, to when everyone on the team had Bitcoin. It was kind of funny.
Yeah. Do you think there was like is clown the right word? Because for me, they just thought, yeah, maybe it's clown, but I thought like some kind of weird religious fanatic / scammer.
No, I don't know. I think like a lot of people, I think it was interesting because I do think a lot of people realized like on the team that I was quite wealthy, that it was like weird that I was doing this job. So I don't think anyone, I mean, they might've thought I was a clown for like my basketball takes for whatever reason, maybe not, but they didn't think I was a clown for like my financial decisions. I don't think. I just think it was just kind of, it just made it so that I was a little bit more difficult to relate to in some ways. Like there's Bob, former gambler, now Bitcoin acolyte, who looks like wears the same hoodie every day. It was always a different one, but it was the same brand of hoodie every day. Like that guy's rich. Doesn't seem rich to me. What's your
brand of hoodie of choice?
I used to like the Vince cashmere hoodies, and then those just didn't hold up during a season of all the travel. So I just went with like a Vince regular hoodie. By the way, Gap makes great hoodies. I spilled some stuff on my hoodies and I went to a Gap in New York, and I was like, these are decent hoodies. They make good hoodies too.
Do you have a hoodie CryptoPunk?
I do not. I did. Oh wait, I guess I do in the Christie's. So we won the Christie's auction for the Alien. That was me. So I think there's a hoodie in there, but that's the only one I would have. The hoodies are overpriced to me. I mean, to me, it just didn't make sense. Like I'm buying different trades.
But they have cachet, you know, like people like hoodies.
People love hoodies. It's interesting, like hoodies and 3D glasses. I don't know how you're threading the needle between like the nerds with the hoodies and the 3D. I guess they wear 3D glasses. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah. I don't have any. Yeah, I like the wild whites too. I like. I don't have one that resonates with me. I think like when I was looking for an avatar that resonated with me, like pudgy penguins, I was like, oh yeah, these are cool. Like the Scar pudgy penguin with that's my guy. Like that's my Telegram. I had it as like a right click save before I owned it. And then I was like, oh, this thing's like 2 ETH. I got to at least buy it. So I went and bought my, he's got like a bowler hat. I did. Yeah, man. I was like, why not? Why not right click? I wasn't going to buy a fucking penguin. These things are just a complete, Alex Weiss is like tweeting about these penguins. They're like, these things are total scam. And then I was like, oh, they're kind of cool, but I'll never make my money back. Maybe now, I don't know, maybe we can get the penguins, can have like a second wing, but I actually do like the penguins.
I'm going to like retcon that I fudded penguins at the top. I don't actually know what the price was, but I think I fudded them at the top. I was very anti-penguin, and then it just went to zero. So
yeah,
you did.
I haven't bought any NFTs. I haven't bought any. That's the right click save one. Yeah. I haven't actually bought any NFTs in a really long time. I think I got hustled on Discord by someone who's like, oh, you got to buy this NFT project. That, you know, I had my Discord DMs open for a while, and I would literally get like just inundated with people trying to get me to buy some random NFT. So I haven't bought any in a while, with the exception of the wolf game. I bought some wolves just for fun not too long ago. But yeah, I love NFTs, but I'm definitely not into buying any more of them. I think I've got enough. I need to divest some of my NFT portfolio for sure. If you know anyone who's looking for a CryptoPunk alien, no, I mean, I think everyone should have one. I'm trying to spread the love. I'm just
testing liquidity.
Yeah. To be very clear, I'm very bullish, and this is not any sarcasm. I'm very bullish CryptoPunks. I am. I'm just concerned that if Ethereum goes to 10,000, I'm not sure that the CryptoPunks will hold that value. I think in that case, Bitcoin, or excuse me, the punks themselves might be worth less than Ethereum in that sense. Like you'd been better off just holding straight Ethereum. But in terms of NFTs, of all NFTs, I'm super bullish on CryptoPunks. They're just priced out of people's range right now, unfortunately. I think the floor is like 300 and some odd thousand. So
yeah.
Do you think the floor is racist?
I don't know. I saw Novogratz tweeting about that. I think people buy things that resonate with themselves. I think if anything, it shows that there's not enough people of color that are into Bitcoin. I think there's got to be more of a education there, or it's not cool for them. I don't know what it is. I think part of it is there's some socioeconomic stuff. There's some just historical things that people are interested in, and punks are by and large a nerdy white male demographic for the most part. I would say it's like maybe not white, but just nerdy male, I guess. I don't know. So am I worried? No, I don't know. Why doesn't Novogratz on Novogratz tweet about? Why don't you just buy a bunch of them and raise the floor price and then give them away?
I saw that conversation. There, someone was like, "Wait, so you're just gonna a white guy is gonna buy all the flag?"
But you have to give them away.
Even worse.
So
No, that's even worse. But you have to give them away. You have to like do it as a like I want to. Educate's not the right word, but just like expose people to something new. This idea of it. There's a lot of like athletes who are, but the problem with them is they're always looking for a deal. Like these athletes, some of them are notoriously cheap. So they weren't buying punks. They were buying like Bored Ape yacht clubs, right? They were,
former guest OBJ, he bought a punk before he came on. So his investment's done pretty well in his punk.
For sure.
But
yeah, I mean, Jay-Z has a punk. Jay-Z has a punk.
I thought you said Gainsey.
No,
he's trying to capitulate his punks already. He's a short-term thinker. He needs to listen to this episode.
I'm not a capitulator. I've never been. If anything, I am a guy who holds way too long. I've never been a capitulator. I'm very stubborn. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish punks for sure. I just think there's a huge disconnect between what the alien market is asking and what people are willing to buy. I know some people who own aliens, they're getting offers in the $30 million range, $35 million range, and they're just not selling for 100 for less than 100. So it is interesting when that will ever happen. Maybe the Twitter NFT verification thing, when that goes live, maybe that'll create a new renaissance for NFTs or a new market cycle for them. I think that's a big thing. People love to flex, for sure.
How do you think the Twitter NFT integration thing's going to go down with like the furries and the
Which furries? My furries or the furry people?
No, the furries are people that pretend to be an animal on the internet, but not the Bored Ape holders. The other ones, the ones that don't have NFTs.
It's going to be rough for them. I mean, they've finally made it to a point in life where they've become cool with being furries, and I think it's the NFTs have created a different.
I don't understand this drama. It's one I specifically avoid. I just don't understand. I don't know.
I don't think it can't be real, can it? I mean, these people.
Are there that many furries?
They canceled the Discord integration.
Furries did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the furry community banding together.
There's really people there's a lot of these people out there.
We should do an NFT project. We should find these furries and do NFTs based on their actual furry look, like whatever their avatar is.
Already exists. It's fluffs. It's. Is
it really? Oh man, I'm always late. I'm always late to these.
I can offer you a very good deal on some.
I'd love to get some furry fluffs.
They look like sex offender rabbits. That's what he's on about. They look like they're not good, man. They look creepy. It's dodgy. It's dodgy stuff.
Well, you can make a game out of it. You can make a game out of it where you got to hunt them down. You got to like catch them in their crimes, and you got to collect like police, whatever, investigator NFTs, kind of like, you know, alpha, like the wolf game, whatever. There could be like a alpha score on the furry as to how deviant he is, a deviant score on the furry. You want like a deviant, a furry that doesn't have the, I don't know, maybe not, but it seems like there's something there for someone if they want to go after it.
There you go, Ledger. You can go back to the Fluffs community and let them know.
I'm gonna get hated now.
Y'all just
by the furries.
Y'all just aren't gonna make it. I'm sorry. They've done well. The floors.
We're not gonna make it onto the sex offenders register.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about fluffs and furries. I do think there is a bit of a weird backlash about about NFTs, like this sort of visceral hate that seems anti-intellectual. It seems like it's just a position that people repeat because they know it's popular. So when that dude, I don't know, what's he called, Jimmy Fallon? I got this wrong the other episode.
Yeah, it was Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon. He put his profile picture to a Bored Ape, and like he just got like ragged on in the replies. Just people going like nuts, like making anti-NFT jokes because they just know it's going to be popular within their like friend group or whatever. They know they're going to get a ton of clout from posting an anti-NFT joke. And I always find it that interesting when there is a movement that catches on that doesn't self-criticize, doesn't like analyze like what are we actually what is actually bad here, like why do we hate this, or we just hate it because it's popular to hate it. So I do think that's interesting. I think it's going to be a weird thing to play out if NFTs stick around as like a mainstream thing in the future.
I think they have to stick around. I think like the community that's built up already is so fervently into these things, and I don't even think people really care about the price. Like there was like this great in the Penguin chat. I don't know if you saw it. It was like a Twitter Spaces. It was like probably one of the greatest. I'll see if I can find it and I'll tweet it again. But it was probably one of the greatest Twitter Spaces ever. This guy was talking about how his penguin was him and he's his penguin. And he's like, guys, I came home from dinner the other night. I was going to take my girlfriend out and my penguin loves me. And I think like there's a certain segment. I don't know if that was performance art or if that was real, but it didn't matter even. It didn't even matter if it was real or if it was performance art. Just the story of it is so great. And I think, yeah, I think they'll be around. I mean, I think this idea that art is always has to be physical and it always has to be somewhere that you can see it. I mean, people buy art for a number of reasons. But one of the reasons why they buy art is to show people that they own art, bring them to their house and like, oh, look at this Picasso that I have, or look at this Banksy or this, whatever, this Basquiat. And I think NFTs are like the ultimate way to do that. And most of our lives are going predominantly more and more online, especially post-pandemic. And so it just kind of makes sense to me that the NFTs are going to kind of bridge the gap between real life flexing and plus these kids. Like if you look at the amount of wealth that was created in crypto, we can all relate to people that we know that are just far richer than we ever could have imagined. That generation is not the type that's going to buy Rolexes anyways. Like they're just not the type that's going to flex that way. But they'll buy a rock, they'll buy a punk, they'll buy all these other things, a Fidenza. That's what speaks to them. And I think more as time goes on, there'll be more and more of those type of people, and less of the physical, I want a Picasso or I want a whatever piece, because I think that it's just a function of who's getting rich. Like I was telling that to my Christie's rep. I was like, you need to treat these people with a little bit more respect. These are your future customers. These are the nouveau riche. These are you guys ingratiate yourself to the hedge fund people and the finance people back in the day, and these are the new ones. And so whoever figures that out will make more. And they're all trying to make money. You can see they already have their last auction at Sotheby's. They were taking bids in ETH on real art. So on regular art. So
that's a nice.
It's kind of interesting.
You got a Christie's rep.
Yeah.
Cobie's just ready to send a message off. So, hey, give me a Christie's rep. Need my broker over there at the auction house.
What did you guys think of this Constitution DAO thing? To me, that was like the biggest shit show of all time.
Did you do it?
They asked me if I wanted to, and then I was like, what do I get? And they're like, you get voting rights. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. Like, you can't see, because of the securities laws with DAOs, there wasn't any ability to profit from it. So I'm just like, why I don't care enough about the Constitution. Like, no offense to the Constitution, and I'm not American, first of all, so it's like, that doesn't really resonate.
It's also,
with me.
it's one of 13 constitutions, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah, there's
not
like,
even, not
yeah,
the one.
101.
yeah, like the cool thing to do would have been to have bought it and burned it. I think that would have just like made people go bananas, like absolutely bananas.
That's a real good way to get like lawmakers in particular interested in crypto in all the wrong ways. It's certainly an interesting case study.
Well,
yeah, I don't get what the, like, buying a one of 13 and owning a small piece of. I mean, I think it's cool what they were trying to do. I was like a cool thought experiment, but it didn't really work out the way they wanted.
Yeah, I like that it's like DAOs have become a quick way for the internet to financially organize something, right? Like it's sort of
crazy.
That effect. Yeah, the effect where what are they called, those just giving or like fundraising links go super viral, and you see someone, GoFundMe, yeah, that's the American one, and you see someone they're trying to raise like 10 grand, and they've got like 500k or something. It's gone super viral, and people are chipping in. And it's like kind of like that, but for purpose other than charity. It's like, oh, we're gonna do something stupid. Oh, we're gonna buy this thing, and you get to say you were a part of it. I think that's kind of cool. But when I was like out on Constitution DAOs, when I read somewhere that they were like, oh, we're going to raise all this money, we're going to, buy the Constitution, and then we're going to request that the community votes for us to get some like governance tokens, like for the team who organized this and did all this shit, to get some tokens, kind of like, just like, they can't issue them to themselves because of securities law. So they're going to propose to the people that bought them that the team should have a stake too. Since we technically own the Constitution, you're kind of like locked into saying yes. So we gave our money to these people who are now own this thing. We've got to kind of give them some votes. Otherwise they can just fucking run off with it. And then I was like, I'm out now, because they're just like, raise a bunch of money to buy something worth $40 million or whatever it went for. And then they're going to dilute everyone by issuing 20% new like governance tokens. So they print themselves like $10 million. Everyone else's like share like gets diluted a bit. So they had a $40 million constitution. Now they own a $32 million share of a constitution. And I was like, yeah, this is a clever scheme. People put this together, it's smart, but I'm out. Not for me.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that far even. I just was like, man, this doesn't seem like something I would really like. Had it been a CryptoPunk or something, I probably would have been like, yeah, I'm in. But it's interesting because like it's another example of how like crypto is like pushing the, like kind of bending the laws a little bit. Like the ideas of DAO and having securitization in the United States at least isn't quite there yet. But once that actually happens, if it actually happens, I think you'll see some pretty amazing things. Where you guys raided some girl's Twitch chat and got her how many millions of dollars or whatever it was. I forget that Malia, whatever it was.
Be worth millions.
Well, I think she got like a bunch of money, right? She got
like
at least like
$1,000 for.
Yeah. Okay. So I thought it was more.
ETH was like ETH was 2.6.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it's more now. And then a kid that had medical debt, it's like $800,000 stream that Cobie did, and the first one we did was like $85,000. We're due for another one. We need to do a new one, especially with the holidays.
Yeah, I've always kind of.
Somehow.
What's that?
All the viewers are broke now though somehow. Like it crashed and then went back to all-time highs, but somehow people's balances are lower. How did this happen? The prices are up and I'm down.
According to the internet, 3AC took it all. They just like gobbled up all these profits themselves.
I wouldn't doubt it. I had a bunch of people in my Telegram chats that became like full-on, Three Arrows Capital acolytes. Super cycle and all this other stuff. I wouldn't doubt if they got just completely liquidated on the Ethereum drop, because Ethereum dropped a bunch when it dropped. When we had this last crash,
like 1.8 or something. It was brutal.
Insane. Yeah.
What do y'all think about Ken Griffin actually being the one to have bought the Constitution? Like, do you think the crypto community just like inadvertently kind of rugged him so that he went and spent a bunch of money like out of spite?
Yeah. You bought a worthless piece of paper. Congrats, Ken.
It's kind of funny, like, it is interesting. Like, I don't care enough about it, but it is interesting, like the way, like the whole situation. Like, I'm sure here's how I envision it happening, and this is just like my own. I'm not alleging this to be factual. It's just my opinion. He knows exactly how much these guys are willing to bid the DAO. He goes up, picks up the phone, calls his rep, and is like, I will bid up to that amount, like a little bit more, but I want a big discount. And they're like, okay. And that's probably what happened. Because it's never going to 41 million without another party who's willing to bid up that high. It's going to be at like 20, whatever, 22. But if you know you can go a little bit higher, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I'm sure he wanted to outbid him and figured out a way to get it just a little bit cheaper. Because I know he paid less than the full price for it.
That's
interesting. It would have been funny to just bid like 10 cents lower than what they raised, so they have to pay the full amount. There's like only one bidder, it's like 10 million, and they can get it, but you're like, no, 41,065,20.1, and they're like,
yeah. Well, the price of ETH was also fluctuating too, right? So it's like kind of interesting during the broadcast.
Accidentally, maybe he was trying to do that because it actually the final price was less than they had raised, but they had calculated amount that they needed to keep in like a treasury to maintain the document. So maybe he was trying to just bid them to their max bid, and then he got stuck with it accidentally.
I'd had way more respect for him if that was his goal, and he followed through and succeeded on it. That would have been amazing if he was just like, yeah, I had no interest in this. I own 3 of the other 12, 13 or whatever. Congrats for pumping my bags, guys. Good on you. That would be the move. Like if you were one of the guys who owned one of these other constitutions, you knew these guys are going to bid up. Yeah, bid like 39.999, whatever the fuck it is. That would have been the move. Getting stuck with it isn't in my experience isn't necessarily the best way to go about it. But hey, you can't win them all.
TV show one day.
For sure. You guys need to get Ken Griffin on here. I think it'd be great. Him and then maybe the guy from Robin Hood would be both on at the same time and talk about how they treat their customers. It'd be awesome.
I like what you said about, these people are the future Christie's customers, so you got to treat them with respect. I was reading something by Sam Leeson, don't know how to pronounce his name. Sorry, Sam. Earlier today about like the self-tenured crypto class and how like every technology era, every major technology era has a big set of IPOs that in turn creates a set of self-tenured technologists or entrepreneurs who make enough money from those IPO events or that boom or whatever to effectively self-tenure for the rest of their career. And like self-tenure basically means they can't be fired because they've got enough money. Maybe it's, some arbitrary value. I think in the thing he says it's like 10 million plus or whatever. And those self-tenured people have enough security and freedom to really, really, really push innovation forward and push the like next wave of technology forward. And in crypto, I think it's relevant not only for the future of technology, but also for the future of culture, because those people have acquired so many resources. It's not just the $10 million threshold. It's not just a bunch of, $10 million net worth IPO graduates or whatever. Instead, it's like just a bunch of billionaires, like people that went from 50 mil to $1 billion in basically a year, who now have like a billion or multiple billions of dollars to spend, and they're not just interested in funding another ohm fork or DeFi 2.0 or whatever. They're also interested in like how we interact with each other, how entertainment is delivered and stuff like that. So I do think that's super relevant and something that people haven't really clocked. When you think about it for a little bit longer, you realize all these people are quite weird. And that the people in control of or hugely influential in culture in the future are all a little bit bizarre, and most of them are anonymous, and half of them are LARPing as women or anime women or something. So that's not a huge vote of confidence for future, but these days, what is?
Yeah, no, that's definitely accurate. It's funny. I was talking to this guy on Telegram who identifies as a cat, I guess.
Not CL?
And he's like,
CL. It's got to be CL.
It was CL. And he's chatting me up, and he's like, and he's a very nice guy. He's very interesting. But he chats me up, and he's like, "What's your average day like?" And he's like, "This cat curious." Like, this cat curious. What's your average day like? I was like, I'm not having a conversation with a cat. Like, if you want to talk like a regular human being, we can talk, but we're not, I'm not going to identify this conversation as you as a cat. And he's like, oh, sorry.
I realized we would immediately know who he's talking about.
I mean, there's plenty of them for sure. Yeah. He's like always meow, meow, el meow. And I'm just like, yo, bro, like, like but he's an interesting one for sure. I've never met him in person. I'm sure it would be a trip.
How could they not be best? How could crypto people, NFT people, not be best friends with the furries? Like, it's the same thing.
It's the perfect, it's like it seems like just like the perfect integrative community. Like they should really be, I don't understand. The other part I think it's interesting to think about is, like, to your point when you were talking about this article this guy wrote, is that there's also a huge wealth, in addition to the wealth that's being created in crypto, there's traditional money wealth, like, I don't know if it's the boomers or whoever, like whenever they pass on, that's going to be the largest wealth transfer in history. And they're passing it on to their young kids who are now living in this fucking metaverse or living on this online world. And they're
CL.
a lot
it's going to CL.
It's going to CL. Yeah. There's a lot of that too. And so you think about, where are those, like all these studies that people are doing and all these little researching people are doing, the people are more comfortable investing in Bitcoin or crypto than they are in traditional finances. And so it kind of makes sense. Hey, come here. See a little Oscar, little furry here wants to make a.
Awesome.
Hold on, let me get him a little bit. There he is.
Look at that. Aww. We like the pups.
Yeah, he's a good boy. All right, off.
Nice.
He's going to post on Twitter now. It's like,
he's got to go.
The day pretending to be a dog.
Yeah, he's got. Hold on, I got to fix my camera. Now he's going to go put on his new Hermes scarf that he got the other day.
I didn't even know that's how you pronounce it. God, my awareness of fancy.
What do you think? It was Hermes?
Yeah,
Hermes?
Absolutely. I've never heard.
Yeah, Hermes doesn't have the same cachet.
It doesn't.
I don't think people aren't going to be super excited to buy Hermes scarves, but Hermes.
Hermes. I definitely want to spend the money now.
How are you responsible for Cuban's foray into? Are you responsible for Cuban getting rugged?
Yes to both, really. I don't know how he would. It's funny, like a year ago, I guess almost a year ago today, I remember it was December 27th or December 26th last year, having a conversation with him about crypto, Ethereum in particular, DeFi in particular, him being like uber pessimistic, bear case, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, that's not, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? No, it doesn't work. Literally a week later, he's on CNBC talking about how, like, he's an expert on this. It was like the most amazing. It was like, it just shows you how sharp this guy is. Like, he could go from being someone who doesn't know very much about anything to learning about it within a week, to the point where he's like well-versed enough to go talk about it on, I think he did like 10 podcasts in the next 3 weeks or something like that. As for the rugging, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how he got into Titan. I'm assuming he saw one of my wallets doing it. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe he heard about some other way. But I remember sending him a very specific message being like, this is a I remember saying, like, this is a Ponzi. Like, he's like, no, it's not a Ponzi. And I'm just like, well, it wasn't created by a guy named Charles Ponzi. So it wasn't a pure Ponzi in that case. But if you do the math and you see how much new money needs to come in to sustain these prices of the coin itself, like how much iron needs to be minted just to sustain the price of, like, just the people who are harvesting their rewards alone, there's like 2.5 billion. There needed to be, like, I think it was like 300 million in new money a day every day. I forget the actual number. I was like, it's going to blow up. I had a funny story. Me and Timex were talking about this at the time, and Timex is like an uber pessimist about everything, but he's in the streets, he's doing stuff. And so he was just like really anti-Titan. He never gotten in. And I'm just like, oh, well, had you been, like, we're having this conversation, and had you already been in Titan, you'd have made, there goes another 6,000 that you could have made. Like, and then we've been talking for another 30 minutes. And it's funny, we're like, well, let's bet on when it's going to collapse. And I think we were like doing the math, and I think it was Tuesday, and I think the bet was dinner if it lasts past Saturday. And by the time we finished doing the math together, we were just like, oh, this isn't going to last through tomorrow. Yeah. And it literally collapsed the next morning. I went to bed, woke up, and it collapsed. It was pretty funny. So it was pretty perfect. It was pretty perfect that Mark wrote a blog post on Titan.
Oh no,
and then it collapsed. I mean, I felt so bad for him. And then it was right around the time all of the Dallas Mavericks GM stuff was happening. So I don't think he had time to like manage his Titan position, but it was pretty funny. I definitely thought it was funny. I was just like, hey.
How's crypto going?
Yeah. But I also got him involved. I mean, I remember sending him the first Bitcoin email in 2012 or 2013. I was pushing him on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I think he finally bought some around $4,000 or something like that. Later on, right before the run up of the 2017 or bull market. So I don't know. I'm sure he talks to a lot of different people, but I was definitely in his ear a lot on this stuff for sure.
There's like a whole new generation too of that where it requires more to come in, but they've added this like bonding mechanism. So like the Ohm and all the 3-3 people. And what's weird is one, it does create this situation where they have underlying assets that are outside of the native token that like kind of secure a floor, if you will.
A little bit, yeah. But if you, those are still bull market coins. Like if you look at, and now I'm gonna get all the fucking 3-3 people coming after me. But if you look at like the assets that they're holding, they aren't like the most blue chip of blue chip assets. Like, it's those are bull market protocols for sure.
What I found interesting about it though is there's people that are like smart people in the legacy world, and they're like, yeah, I'm checking out Ohm, that looks pretty cool. And it's just like, wait a second, this makes
of all the things, right?
That's what they find interesting in DeFi.
I do think the ability to issue bonds and a bond issuance and have it be transparent and have it securitize some other underpinning of a new form of stable coin or something like that, I think that is very, very interesting.
I agree. I was listening. I don't know if y'all know Michael Batnick from Animal Spirits podcast, and he works with, but he's well known in like the FinTwit world. And he got,
the Ledger household.
In the Ledger household, very popular. Michael, if you want to come on the show. But he got hacked from a hot wallet and lost to the NFT. And he was like, and also lost some ohmies. And I was like, dude, you have a podcast about financial responsibility. And I realized you're experimenting in crypto, but that's beyond experimentation. That's like the next level degeneracy. And I was simultaneously impressed and baffled that clicked with him enough.
It just shows you how real FOMO is, like, and how greed is such a huge part of our lives, where people are able to rationalize anything because they see other people making money. And people can just kind of throw all rationality out the window for a minute because it means they can buy some thing that they couldn't buy before. I don't know. I'm not super, I don't mean to like shit on Ohm a little bit that much. But I mean, the idea, the problem with these is, as we're experiencing, is like, okay, this is a problem with crypto in general, which is why Bitcoin is so special, is that it's so easy to just fork these things and make a new one. Like, I like how the term is fork, as though it's not like an absolute copy, clone, counterfeit, right? But like, oh, there's a new Ohm fork, as though Ohm themselves, the people of Ohm, decide to put on a different chain. No, someone took the open source code, copied it, and is trying to get rich off of it. And I think what makes Bitcoin cool is that you can make the argument that Ethereum could get like MySpaced away, right? Like everyone makes the MySpace argument. Ethereum could. It might happen, might not, but it might. But Bitcoin, try recreating that provenance of Bitcoin with an anonymous founder who nobody knows who he is, and there's no one governing it, completely decentralized. Now you don't have to worry about the China centralization of the mining anymore. That was a huge argument against it. So that to me makes Bitcoin even more special, because the provenance of it, it's like the immaculate conception of Bitcoin is you're not going to recreate that, but you could certainly make another Ethereum killer or another EVM killer. And so I think that is why Bitcoin will underpin all of crypto, as far as I'm concerned, and all these other new assets will be built around it that'll be a little bit more revolutionary or cutting edge technology wise. And Bitcoin doesn't need that. It just needs to be the soundest money. And
that revolution's in the brand, right? Like the network effects come from the name Bitcoin. It's like people forked Bitcoin 1,000 times too. Open source software is fine to be forked. You can do it in 2 seconds on GitHub. But if you fork the name, like this is I'm curious your take on like Bitcoin Cash, BSV, and people tried to say like this is Bitcoin, because that was an attempt to fork the name as well. Whereas if you're just forking the code, you rename it, you relaunch it. That's a part of the experience of any open source software. It may not be like how to be a good community in the initial one, because you
for sure
make it your own, but it's certainly within the rights of the holder, of the person running the code, if you will. And I'm curious on how you differentiate those, and what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing when I look at it is, the way I think about the forks is like, is anyone act like the Bitcoin Cash fork? There were big Bitcoin Cash people, and so I don't want to have my net worth in something controlled by Jihan Wu and Roger Ver. Sure, they're great guys, but I just don't want them controlling the governance of my net worth. And so all of these forks all had the same thing in common. They were trying to copy the Bitcoin code, but with people in charge. And Bitcoin doesn't need leaders in that way. And so I just think that part of it, like probably the greatest event in my life, this probably says a lot about how miserable my life is. Like one of the greatest events in my life was when Bitcoin Gold got airdropped, and I was just like, what the fuck is this? And it was like, I think it was trading at like some ridiculous number.
Oh, that was a lot.
And I was just like, oh wow. I was like, yeah, I sold it immediately. And same with Bitcoin Cash. Like, oh, my Bitcoin portfolio just went up 30% or whatever in one day because these guys decided to create something called, and then there's Bitcoin Diamond, there's Bitcoin whatever, and there's all these other ones. But Bitcoin Gold was the real one because Bitcoin Gold actually I think it was trading at like $300 or something like that, 300, maybe even more, when Bitcoin was not that. It was like 10% roughly of Bitcoin, or maybe a little bit more. I can't remember exactly, but it was a pretty big chunk of free money. And so, but I wasn't thinking, oh, I want to keep Bitcoin Gold because I think it's going to be a competitor to Bitcoin. But yeah, I don't know, like the BSV thing to me is just like ultimate. Like this to me is these guys cannot be real life. Like these guys cannot be real. Like it is just so crazy that this guy's going around doing court cases, trying to prove that he's Satoshi, but never actually moving the coins, like doing everything but moving the coins to prove that he's Satoshi, right? And yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea whether he is or he isn't. I have a strong suspicion that he's not. But yeah, the BSV situation is just nonsense. Bitcoin Cash, nonsense. All of it's nonsense.
Bitcoin Cash spent at least intraday some time over like 0.3 BTC each. Like that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That was true.
That was the top signal though, wasn't it? I mean, when they got launched on Coinbase, the way it happened, that I think literally the market collapsed within a week after that. In 2017.
With Bitcoin Cash, you knew who you were selling to, right? It was like Roger and Jihan were like bidding. Yeah, we're like bidding it, and you know they want the price to go up so that it puts doubt into people's head about which one is real, and then therefore they complete the maneuver. So it made sense that people were bidding it. When Bitcoin Gold happened, I was like, who's buying this from me? It's like, who's my counterparty? Like, what are they thinking? They're like, I've got a great play. I'm going to buy up this thing that loads of people just got for free called Bitcoin. It didn't make any sense. I still don't understand who that was.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Like, I always wondered, like, who was the other bidder on that? Like, I'm surprised I was able to get off on my Bitcoin Gold as easily as I was without impacting the price that much. It was pretty... Yeah, we set up like a TWAP, I think, or I guess not a TWAP, I guess, but a sell.
TWAP.
So just a TWAS, I guess. And just unloaded the Bitcoin Gold and barely had an impact on the market. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, I miss those days. I mean, I guess there's still airdrop. I guess the ENS airdrop.
Oh yeah, there's still lots of you could have made even selling like within the first week on all of them. I think you could have easily made like multi six figures this year if you just went and experimented with apps. You wouldn't necessarily nailed all of them, but especially if you go back, like if Uniswap kind of set the tone, but then you look at the ones that came after that, there were quite a lot, and people have lists of these are the ones you go play with, and maybe you nail a few, and you could have started with sub 1 ETH and just to try to like wrangle the fees and what you have to do on those different apps to go use them. Now they're finally getting smarter. What was the most recent one? Oh, like Paraswap was like, no, you have to have used this 5 times in 6 months for like certain parameters, and like this tiny percentage of their like monthly active users ended up getting the airdrop. And then the instant question was, okay, well then you're saying for the sake of your business that you have, you know, X thousands of monthly active users, and you only airdropped your coin to like 5% of them. So what does that actually say about your user base?
What does that actually say about your business? Yeah. So it's a bit of it's funny. The guy who I play tennis with sometimes, I went over to his place and he's got his computer out and I'm just like, what is this guy doing? He's like writing down, he's just creating hundreds of BSC MetaMasks and he's just doing trading because he's convinced that he's doing swaps within the MetaMask browser, like 0.1 BSC, whatever or BNB, because he's convinced that he's going to get a MetaMask airdrop. And I'm just like, how many of these accounts have you created? And he was like in the hundreds of different MetaMask accounts that he was just going through.
Isn't MetaMask owned by like Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan or some shit?
Is it really? I don't know.
I thought there was an asset transfer from Consensus to JP Morgan, and MetaMask actually owned by JP Morgan or something, but I might be making
If they're owned by
up
JP Morgan, I'll be like really, really disappointed because I'm like, that's like my least favorite bank for sure. I've had bank accounts
maybe I just
closed by
made it
JP
up.
Morgan.
We're gonna have
More than
MetaMask
I can count.
competitors like pick this FUD up and just run with it. You know, like, screw MetaMask, use our mask. You know, like we need to take it away. From
I would dump MetaMask if I knew they were owned by JP Morgan. I mean, I don't use them for any. I don't use any of their native swap features, so they're not making any money off of me. But it's just would be really offensive to me if they were.
Yeah, I still feel like there's a handful of like relatively obvious airdrops that are probably yet.
What are some of them? Come on, share it. Some of us are trying to get rich over
Arbitrum,
here.
Optimism, ZK Sync, any of the swap. Yeah, any swap platforms that are native to the layer 2s probably. The tough thing now though is people are getting like after the ribbon drama. There's a lot more. What
is the ribbon drama?
The ribbon
you guys are like in
airdrop,
the street so deep.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, the ribbon airdrop, the VC like
in the weeds.
Yeah, the VC farmed like multi-million dollars. One of the seed investors farmed multi-million dollars of a ribbon airdrop and just started dumping it. But they were like a backer that had like $15 million in seed allocation, and they were like dumping like 5 or whatever on the market.
See,
and
I
there
don't
was
have
some
any.
speculation.
I don't have any deal flow like you, Cobie. So I can do whatever I want. I can farm all these different
Yeah.
things, and it's fine.
Me too, because I don't buy it on my ENS name. I disconnect it from. I'm not an idiot, mate. But after that, there's been a lot more like rules put in place for these airdrops. Like you got to look like a real user, and like what is the threshold going to be? So I think that dissuades people from having a go and using these things. I think, especially after the Paraswap one, just like rugged actual real users.
I think there was enough blowback on that to where some of them will probably just eat it. They'll be like, you know, people might have farmed this, but it's better than preventing real users from getting the airdrop. So I don't know. We'll see. But it's a very fascinating way, if you don't have exposure to crypto, to have a pretty low risk avenue towards getting exposure to crypto.
Yeah, definitely. I got to call my dog here, so bear with me. Oscar, come.
I like it.
Out there eating a
Bullish
stick.
on Oscar.
Come on. Come here. Hey, what do you got there?
Nice.
Dog's eating sticks. Not good.
I like your the dog voice, which is like this command, this slight different change in tone to boss your dog around. But I do think there is like massive like additional value for people if you're in crypto and you hear about a thing and it doesn't have a token yet, just to give it a try, because A,
For sure.
now you at least know how it works. B, there potentially is an airdrop, and like a lot of these protocols are doing this sort of, I think, the variant fund thesis of like users get to own a bit because users build value in a protocol too, and they're doing that model, and I think it's pretty like it's a better model than like the previous web has been at least. So even if there isn't an airdrop, at least you get to like figure out how this stuff works and like have a better idea of how the space is evolving. And if you do get an airdrop, bonus.
Yeah, it is cool because if you look at like, obviously ICOs are not possible anymore. So this is like the new way to get to bootstrap liquidity and bootstrap adoption. It is interesting how like crypto just kind of finds a way all the time. Like it's like, you know, this isn't allowed anymore. Okay, we're going to do this. Oh, that's not allowed anymore. Okay, well, we'll form a DAO, but you won't really actually own anything. And it's kind of interesting. It just shows you how much innovation there is in the field. So
what's funny is there's still like awful coverage of all of this because, you know, the first one should have brought tons and tons of people on chain for the first time, but people just treat it like voodoo and they don't touch it still. I saw an article today that somebody shared and it was like, in awe of someone that turned $12,000 into $50,000 in 4 years in crypto. And I was like, I'm pretty sure they underperformed the market dramatically.
No, there was a tweet like how I turned $4,000 into, it was like an article. It was like how this user turned $4,000 into $350,000 in 4 years. And someone tweeted like he bought a CryptoPunk. It was like, yeah, it was just like,
but that's perfect, that's a pretty epic hold at least. But I mean,
but he didn't actually buy a CryptoPunk, but they're just saying like, oh, he could have bought a CryptoPunk.
Yeah, right. And it's just, it kind of baffles me that there's not been a rush of more people, relatively low barrier to entry to go use on-chain tooling, but people are just not figuring it out. There's terrible coverage of it, but this is the type of thing. If it was outside of crypto, if it was something that was a little more like rational for people to understand, if like Facebook was giving, some company based on Facebook. Like it'd be
or Google. You use Google and then
like
and then every time you do a search.
something.
No, that's a good point. That would be cool. I mean, if you think about like just a regular TradFi software company or tech company giving some of their, like if Google decided they wanted to just give their users, their Gmail users something, but how would they do it? They'd have to do it in a token format. That's the other part of it. So it's
I'm not saying
like
they should do it. I'm just saying, had it been like a Web 2 company that was doing these types of interesting ways to create money out of nothing, then people, like millions of people would be doing it. And instead there's tens of thousands or maybe low hundreds of thousands of DeFi.
No,
but there's not.
That was not for the dog, mate. That was for you.
There he goes. He's chasing squirrels. He's like going after the squirrels. Pretty funny.
I like it.
At least he doesn't bark. I don't know.
That's good.
He's like on the squirrel hunt. I don't mind the squirrels. It's like when he tries to eat one of these things here. It's like, where is it? It's not good. I think this is if anyone wants to know what it was like to be a fabulously successful crypto entrepreneur, this is it right here. Just tending to my doodle all day. just doodle watch all day. Watch a little basketball, doodle watch. Going to the Clippers Dallas game tonight. Let it be. Oscar, come. Oscar.
Love Oscar. We need who's minting Oscars.
Look at the energy on this dog. He's just ripping it in there. He's so good.
Cobie, what else do we have?
I want to ask you, you said you're virtually a Bitcoin maxi, but you're, at least shit.
I'm like 70. Yeah, I'm like 65% Bitcoin at this point. I was 100% as of, I don't know, sometime not too distant past, but not anymore.
Yeah. So do you think it's like macro bearish for all of crypto if there is a flippening, if like Ethereum or something else became the like biggest crypto asset? Do you think, all right, that's it, all to zero, the immaculate conception has been undermined and it has become a place of puppetry for VCs? Or do you think that the Ethereum distribution being like basically a legal securities sale, which on reflection is actually quite a fair way to do things. And it's a good job investors were not protected from getting into that. But that at least has some like community first origin still.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I try not to think too much about what I would do if X, Y, or Z would happen, because like I try to make decisions in the moment. And so who knows what the scenario is there when that happens. But roughly like my thoughts are, like, if I'm a holder of these assets, if Ethereum gets to like 0.080-ish, I'm probably net seller of Ethereum. And if Ethereum gets to like 0.085-ish, I'm probably net seller of both Ethereum and Bitcoin. And that's like kind of like a signal for me possibly to start diversifying into something other than JPEGs and crypto. But that's just kind of like a rough outline that I have right now. I don't know. I also said like, when Bitcoin was at 55,000 and then went down to like 30, I was like, as soon as we get to 50, I'm selling some for sure. And then we got back up to 50. I was just like, no, can't do it. Can't do it.
6K and 60K seems like a fairly reasonable target to me, and that would be 0.1. Does that scare you, or what makes you have that analysis of the 0.08?
I just some basic modeling stuff that I had. Hey, no, I didn't listen. Squirrel watch. Just some basic modeling stuff that I had done in the past. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get too into the weeds on it, but that's just kind of my thoughts. I mean, 6K 60 probably doesn't seem too bad, but I think in general it signals usually like a pretty euphoric crypto environment. And in general, those are times where it's good to be a little bit more rational about things when everyone else is like dancing in the streets and stuff. So that's kind of my thinking on it. But again, when it happens, I will reevaluate, and I don't hold myself to anything ahead of time. I'm always trying to think in the moment. That's like a big part of my process, is just being in dealing with things as they happen versus trying to plan too far ahead, or being
Joey,
like steadfast in plans.
Dominic says Joey Moose is in the chat. Do you know who Joey Moose is?
I do not know who Joey Moose
is the guy who is his penguin, and his penguin is him.
Oh, that's amazing.
I just saw him in the chat.
That's great.
Rumors are going around, like you mentioned, my Spaces tonight. Shout out Penguin Guy. I wonder if he's still got his penguin. What do you reckon?
I'm sure.
I don't see how he couldn't. I'd be really worried for him if he didn't. That's an identity crisis waiting to happen if he doesn't have it.
I've sold me.
Yeah, this penguin. Yeah, I'd be concerned if he didn't.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Should we get some questions from Chat Ledger, or do you think they're a bit too rowdy and poorly behaved?
No, they've been pretty good. There were some questions. I forget what all they were, so people need to throw them in here if they've got them. So, Bob, I know you're friends with a lot of the people who are like very clever analysts or whatever in the sports world. I'm curious, like, who do you think would be like a great sports world advocate for this space, or like would really dig into it? Like I listen to Bill Simmons and like some of the people that he has on a lot, and think some of those guys are pretty smart. Are there people in the sports landscape that you think would just be like really naturally transitioned into crypto stuff?
Stephen A. Smith. We got to get him on board, and he'll solve the. He'll manage the pumps. He'll keep everyone on board. He'll solve the disparity in the floor ethnic floor punk thing. He'll solve that. I think that's the guy we need. We need Stephen. We gotta send the ledger and up only army at Stephen A. Smith and get him red pilled on crypto. I don't know. I mean, to answer your question, I don't really know. I don't think there's like I don't think a lot of people are like, oh, what should I do about my financial life? I don't know. Let me see what, Jeff Van Gundy has to say, or like some random sports analyst, what do Peyton Manning and Eli Manning have to say about crypto? But I don't know. I could be wrong. I think it's more of like mainstream people, I think, is what you really need. Like, it's kind of cool that you have some of these VCs. No, sit. You have some of these VCs, like Peter Thiel obviously is really big on this stuff on Bitcoin now. He's become like more vocal about it. They're starting to feel more comfortable expressing it. To me, like it's more of, rather than sports and mainstream, it's like the finance guys. Like when Paul Tudor Jones and Stanley Druckenmiller started talking about crypto, that's when I was able to like convince some of my boomer friends that they should be buying crypto. Mm-hmm. Didn't matter what I said until once Paul Tudor Jones spoke or when Stanley Druckenmiller spoke, they were like listening intently. Yeah. So those would be the guys I think. I guess Reese Witherspoon, she's like really big into NFTs now. I guess that was a moment for a while. I can't really think of anyone else that I would, if I wasn't into crypto, who would I want to get into? But I'm sure there's someone.
Yeah, I was talking to People Pleaser. Me and People Pleaser started a project together the other day, which is I will remain relatively secret for now, but it's like very cool. And I asked
a few thousand people here.
Yeah, but knows what it is. I mean, you could probably find the Twitter account if you like had half a brain. But I asked her something, a question relative to this, and she was like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll just ask Reese Witherspoon." I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, Reese Witherspoon's like really into crypto. She like loves my stuff now." I'm like, "You became friends with Reese Witherspoon."
That's great.
Yeah. Reese hanging out now.
That's amazing. I think there'll be more stuff like that. I mean, this is why I think NFTs are great, because it's so easy for someone to understand an NFT. I like that. That resonates with me. World of Woman resonates with me. Punks resonate with me. Penguins resonate with me. Whereas like, unless you're a dentist and Dentacoin comes out, you're probably not resonating with a random ICO, right? There's not like some ICO that you're like, oh yeah, I really believe in this, this other coin. So I think like as NFTs is like the gateway drug of crypto right now. They're getting people into crypto. They understand scarcity. They understand community. They understand the on-chain aspect of it, the sovereignty of it. And then maybe they'll get into believing a little bit more on the chains they're working on. So yeah, I don't know. That is interesting. Yeah, Reese Witherspoon's legend. Total, like that was like pretty cool when I think she even changed her name to .eth or something, didn't she? Or was I just dream? Was that a fever dream of mine? Did that not happen? Yeah.
Maybe. Who knows? I can't say I follow Reese Witherspoon. I tweeted her once to say come on this show, and then
Yeah,
obviously she didn't reply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get
She
people,
replied to
please,
me
should
surprising.
be on.
you got to use these connections, Cobie. Come on.
Yeah, you got to use the
Yeah,
connection.
but I'm
You gotta
using
do
for the
one
other
more,
project, mate. Sorry. I'll cash it in afterwards once I'm also friends with Reese.
There you go.
Fine. Very selfish.
All right. Did you see any of the questions, Brian?
A bunch of people spamming about BGAN punks. Don't know if we care about talking about specific NFT projects. Outside of that,
Yeah, we don't. Love the vegan punks. Great piece of art. Everyone should own one.
everybody should own a BGAN punk.
You can buy one from me. I've got like 180. And if you want one, just hit me up.
I think I had like some large percent of the market, and these guys were like panicking in the Discord when I started selling. Then they started hating me after a while. So it was pretty funny. So I started going into the Discord and be like, all right, I'll sell it this much. Give me your offers, and it would actually help me sell. But yeah, I haven't sold any. I'm not a huge believer in the vegan punks yet. But who knows? Remains to be seen. I'm more of a OG CryptoPunk guy. Hey, sit.
Yeah.
I'm not getting other great questions.
There were some good ones, but then we spoke about Reese Witherspoon for too long. Do you still play poker?
Not really. I played in this Triton. I'll play like a rec tournament that's like mostly business people, and because I was never a professional poker player to begin with, and so I'll do that. I'll play in some cash games for fun. That's more of a social. Like this, I'm never going to play in a game where the stakes are high enough for it to matter for me. So just casual player. I love the game of poker, but I'm not super into it anymore, if that makes sense.
Cedric in the chat said, can we ask about the BTC that you sent to some dude on Twitter who made a Fire John Barry website?
I haven't. That was not one of my greater moments. There was an announcer on ESPN that I just found had like a real disdain for the game. And the way he broadcasted the game was just so offensive to me for whatever reason that I decided that I wanted to. Yeah, it was probably pretty childish. But anyways, I paid someone $10,000.
Yeah.
$10,000 in Bitcoin when the price of Bitcoin was probably like, I want to say like around 1,300 maybe, or maybe less.
Yeah, his estimate was that it was worth about $1 million today.
Yeah, I think the guy had, I'm pretty sure the guy who won, created the website won, he had, if I'm remembering correctly, he had like cancer treatment that he ended up paying for, I think, with it, or he ended up part of it, someone in his family, or he did, I forget. He can maybe reach out if he's around. He probably isn't, but he created a pretty great website, and the website was all right. And the guy's no longer commentating on NBA games, maybe just on the radio. So,
and someone got treatment. So he kind of a win-win, I guess.
Yeah. I was definitely pushing Bitcoin very early on Twitter, like 2012, 2013. But it's funny, people would only comment when the price is going down. Nobody would ever say anything when the price is going up. When the price is going down, they'd be like, oh, look at this loser, lost all his money in Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. Just shows you the nature of Twitter.
Do you have Anon accounts either for sports commentary or crypto commentary?
No, I do not. Okay. On an Anon account, I have enough trouble managing my own Twitter profile, let alone some. Yeah, I don't really have a filter, so I don't know that I would want an Anon account, but yeah.
Fair enough. You mentioned a bit about the Bitcoin volcano bond stuff. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I think El Salvador has their own bond, and so you could buy that bond. I believe it has a higher coupon. You could do a mixture of just, and I don't want to shit on the bond, but like, I guess the only reason to buy it would be if you wanted to support Bitcoin. Like if you wanted to have Bitcoin exposure, you would just buy Bitcoin. If you wanted to have El Salvador exposure, you would just buy El Salvador's bonds. If you wanted to have that El Salvador bond plus Bitcoin exposure, you would do like a mix of buying the El Salvador bond plus a little bit of Bitcoin. That being said, it is cool. It is interesting. I hope it succeeds. Yeah, I think all of these bond offerings are interesting, especially because once this thing goes public, we're going to know that these guys are buying $500 million worth of bonds. So I don't know what type of market impact that'll have now, but I know when Saylor announced his second bond offering that he did, that was the greatest trading event. Everybody, I think
front ran. Yeah.
I mean, it was free money. I remember telling a bunch of people that I knew that were quite wealthy, like, you need to do, and there's like, oh, it sounds too good to be true. I'm just like, well, sometimes it just be like that. Like, sometimes it's just too good to be true. Like, I don't know, tell me what the solution is. Like, is he getting credit? Doesn't seem like anyone's buying a large amount. And also that situation was interesting because you could kind of get the inkling that Saylor was incentivized to pump the price. Like, he wasn't looking to try to get like a great entry necessarily as much as he was trying to like pump the price of Bitcoin a little bit. So maybe the same thing will happen here in El Salvador. I'm not sure. It'll be interesting. I think the market now, I think the price then was around 20,000, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 18,000. Whereas now it's obviously a lot more. It's like 57 and change. So it'll have less of an impact, relatively speaking. But I think it's cool. I wish more countries would do something like this. I think it would be really, the more bootstrap bond to Bitcoin, I think the better obviously our bags will be, and the better maybe you could argue that some of these balance sheets for these countries would be as well.
It really does seem like, unless MicroStrategy like really keeps leveraging up with, you know, new debt that they issue or something, their entry seems relatively safe if this cycle has if there's any significant upside. Like, their cost basis is somewhere below 30K.
Yep.
So like long term, that might end up being a just ridiculously profitable decision on their part. And
I mean, it's already ridiculously profitable for them. I remember there was all this FUD going on of like, what happens if they were forced to sell? He controls the board, so that's just not happening. You know, he's got a bunch of stooges on the board that are just going to go along with whatever he wants. So the idea that they were going to be forced to capitulate just wasn't realistic. In addition, the bond, it's like I forget, it was like a 10-year or 5-year, some duration bond. It's like, it's not like they'd have to sell right away anyways. Then the amount of interest they're paying on this bond is minuscule. It's like, my question is, who the fuck's buying these bonds? Like, what kind of morons taking like 1% to 2% on a fucking bond? Like, are you out of your minds? Like, what are you doing? But I guess it's like, there was huge demand for these things.
Probably.
I guess the El Salvador one's in the 6% range, I believe. So that's somewhat reasonable, but there's more risk involved, obviously, because it's El Salvador.
I'm excited to see how the Saylor story plays out. I think it's going to be interesting no matter what. It's set up for a good finale.
He strikes me as someone who is going to have a grand finale. I will say that. He doesn't strike me as someone who's just going to quietly, I mean, it's either going to go amazingly well or spectacularly bad. I don't think anything in between. I'm rooting for amazingly well. He's interesting. Like, he does these podcasts. A friend of mine wrote like this script to like, because he just thought it was funny, but like, he did these podcasts, and he'll go on a podcast, and when you're the guest, you're talking more to begin with, but he'll be like 98% of the podcast speaking. Like, the person will ask a question, and 8 minutes later, he'll still be going on and on about it. He's like, he's definitely an interesting cat for sure. He's either very passionate about this stuff, or he just has more energy than we know what to do with, or I don't know where it comes from, but it's pretty impressive.
I feel like his most likely path towards blowing up would be, or like the grand finale being negative. Maybe drugs. I was thinking just figuring out ways to seek leverage for more with this certainty of infinite upside for Bitcoin, and then he does end up kind of trapped by debt somehow with regard, and then a lack of liquidity. I don't know. Like, I realize there's a lot of great ways to get very, very cheap and easy debt that's not due. You're not margin called on it, but 8 years down the road, there might be something that you have to answer to. And if you continue to issue, new debt, there could be a way to screw it up. But if he just kind of sits on what he's got, it could be worth incredible amounts. And then he could just claim clout with it forever.
Well, I mean, to your point though, if he sits on what he has and that's going to be an incredible amount, then he might as well issue more debt, because that'll be even bigger. Like, either it goes terribly bad or it doesn't. And I don't think it matters. It only matters if he's issuing more debt at like 150,000 or something like that. And that's the top. Yeah. Like, as long as the price of Bitcoin keeps going up, which was your first point, in that he's going to be very, very successful if he just holds, then he might as well issue more debt, right? Because at the end of the day, he's not going to be successful unless the price of Bitcoin continues to keep going up. So I don't know. It's interesting to think about. At some point, he's going to have, too outsized of a position. But I don't think we're quite there yet. I mean, I don't know how much they have right now. You can kind of Google it on Bitcoin Treasury.
That's a lot, but yeah.
Don't the Winklevoss own more than that though? Don't they own like 1% of all Bitcoin, or is that, did they sell some?
The
they own 1%
Winklevoss,
at once.
the Winklevoss are the only people to ever refuse to come on this show. The only people, that did any due diligence on the show. We had to do a call with their assistant. But they were like, "So this show, what happens?" And we're like, "I don't fucking know, dude." Like, I drink and ask some questions, and she's like, "What kind of questions?"
I don't know why they wouldn't. It's so silly. I think I don't know. They seem like. I don't know much about them personally, but like I've seen them on appearances. They're obviously very, very good for Bitcoin. They promote it a lot. They're like their tweets are like the Magic Johnson. You guys won't get this reference. Maybe people in the chat will, but they're like their Twitter's like the Magic Johnson equivalent of Bitcoin Twitter, because it's always like Bitcoin went up to 47,000. It's like, oh yeah, great, thanks for the tweet, awesome tweet. But they went on the Dave Portnoy show and tried to red pill him. That was the funniest.
Was so bad.
Oh, it was so
yeah,
good.
I was just like these hipster doofuses got on this show, and within like 45 seconds they're talking about like, first of all, Dave Portnoy's got like the attention span of like my dog ears probably got a bigger attention span than Dave Portnoy does, right? So like if you're getting a guy like who has his social reach and has his cachet in the world, be very specific on what you're trying to sell him on. And 45 seconds into the podcast, they're talking about mining asteroids in space and how Elon's going to do that. And therefore the price of Bitcoin is going to go, or price of gold is not going to go up anymore. So now Dave Portnoy is like thinking about, wow, I can go into space and get, and then they're talking about doing their own token with him, his own coin, Davey coin. And it's just like, so of course Dave Portnoy buys Bitcoin, then paper hands it later because he
might be one of the worst traders of all time. I mean, the next thing he got into with crypto was one of the BSC Ponzi's. Safe Moon. Yeah.
Did he really get into Safe Moon? Well, that was didn't he do like a random drawing to see which coin he was going to buy though? So that was, I don't know. He did like, I think he did.
I think he did. Sponsorship with them. He did a sponsorship with Safe Moon.
Might have been rigged.
Yeah, he announced it at the top. It was not.
Didn't he buy a bunch of he bought a bunch of the meme stocks too at the very top? I feel like. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got his brand. His brand is worth a lot, it has been historically. So he's got that going for him. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily want him managing a large portfolio of my money. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he was. I got a bunch. It was perfect for that. Like, right when the pandemic was inciting this up-only stock movement to buy all the craziest stuff. Like, he was absolutely perfect.
All they had to.
Everybody makes money.
All they had to do was just be very, very clear and explain Bitcoin as best as they could, which I'm sure they can. But, don't start talking about fucking asteroids in space and Elon going to mine gold and fucking asteroids. Like, that's just like, that's too much. That's gonna distract the very best of us, let alone someone who's got his attention span. So
now they're definitely coming up only after our critique of their pitch to Dave Portnoy.
Have to. Yeah, dude, have to. Just get one of them on and do like a split screen so it looks like two of them. And
don't tell the
audience. I just tell them.
I genuinely think we can get Zuckerberg before them.
You got to get Zuckerberg on.
Let's do the Winklevoss twins versus Zuckerberg at the same time, and they can.
You should tell them that you're going to get Zuckerberg on, but then you'd be happy to. Yeah, but you'd be happy. You'd be happy to just have them on instead. Yeah, and then they'll come on.
If you come on, Zuckerberg will never come on. We will ban him from being a guest of Up Only, but only if you come on.
Have you guys ever tried to get Saylor on? I feel like that would be amazing.
No, I don't think he likes. I don't. Well, first of all, I don't think he knows we exist. But I think
I don't think this guy ever
it,
turned down a podcast ever. Like, I saw him doing he does podcasts with like 550 people subscribe to the channel. It's like it's the craziest shit you've ever seen. I'm sure Oscar could launch a podcast and get him on.
I think if he did 2 seconds of due diligence, I think he would go no.
I disagree. I think he would.
Oscar
I think he would go on.
Michael Saylor.
We'll try.
Debate.
We'll try. I'd like to talk to Saylor because I think he's really weird, and I think a lot of people
brilliant, dude.
To him. Yeah, I think so as well. They're not mutual. They're not exclusive things, but like,
for sure.
I think a lot of people when they talk to him, they just let him go on these like rants and go, okay. It'd be nice to actually go, but what do you mean?
Yeah. But some of the stuff he's come up with has been like, I forget, like some of the stuff he says is just like, I mean, this guy, I don't know if he sits there and rehearses this shit or if it's just stream of consciousness, but it's I don't know, it's gold as far as I'm concerned.
I've sent some of his interviews to like family and stuff when I was like, want to get them into the bigger picture idea. And I say, look, this person bought a ton of this stuff on behalf of a public company. Like, he's maybe not considered a serious person by whatever the cool club is in that world, but like, he has control of a public company that has a big balance sheet, and this is what he did with it. And that's worth listening to in its own right.
So some of the stuff he's talked about in terms of the digitization of everything and how money, like everything that's been digitized has been counterfeitable, and how you can make infinite copies, but with money and Bitcoin you can't. I thought like that, like whether it's vinyl, music, art, whatever, like everything's being digitized, books. I thought that was kind of an interesting point. And then like the idea that Bitcoin is energy, I think, and the idea of like capturing, I don't think he was the one who came up with the idea of capturing stranded energy, but he definitely has been proselytizing that idea. I think that those are good refutations of people who are very, very into Bitcoin is boiling the ocean and Bitcoin is like going to kill the planet. I think those are very good refutations to that. It's like, okay, well, we have this stranded energy. It's going to cost a lot of money to do all of these green initiatives that you want to do. What better solution than to put up some fucking Bitcoin mining in these locations that can't, where the electricity can't travel a great distance.
Cobie, so we've been on for 2 hours and 5 minutes. Should we do alpha now?
I got one more question, and I got to do it because a lot of people ask similar themed things. They said sort of like, if you were getting into the space now, how would you allocate? Another version of the question was, if you were 25, had 100K, what would you do? They're all sort of like, imagine you're not wealthy yet, and you can take on a bunch of risk. How are you getting involved in crypto? Or is it even crypto? Are you going to do some weird shit? Are you going to go work in nuclear power or something?
I would do crypto if I was young. I would definitely be trying to build something if I was able to code. I would try to be building something, just kind of like sniff different pools and try to track different wallets and what they're doing. But how would I be allocated? I don't know. I'd probably be a lot. I think like when you're in your 20s, you have the luxury of time, and so you can be a lot more aggressive. So I wouldn't necessarily advocate a large Bitcoin position for someone in their 20s who is trying to like swing for the fences. I would probably be a little bit more aggressive. With cash you can afford to lose. Yeah, this isn't your fucking life savings. Don't go mortgaging or run up your credit card debt or whatever. But look at some of the different layer twos. Look at some of the engagement on these things. Track that. Yeah, those would be the things I would be looking at. I'm not going to give out any specific coins or anything like that, but I would definitely be looking at more high risk maneuvers. I mean, it's kind of easy like to look at who the VCs have determined to be the coins of choice, and they're the ones who are going to be pumping a little bit more. So I would just kind of be more aware of that and try to get in there and try to like swing for the fence. I wouldn't do leverage. I would just be a buy and holder for the most part. Unless some other huge event comes up where where something like MicroStrategy comes up and says they're going to fucking buy $500 million or $900 million worth of coins on Friday and it's fucking Tuesday, then you can leverage up as much as you want. But yeah, those are unique one-offs, it seems like.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Ledger, Alpha question, and then it's bedtime for me.
Yeah.
I'm old now.
First off, Ryan in the chat said, I guess you wouldn't bet $70,000 on the Lakers to win the title. Which is another
this year, definitely not. Yeah, definitely not.
All right, so our alpha thing is basically we just want you to be able to tell the audience like some nugget of advice. Does not have to be, in fact, should not be financial advice, but something that allows you to do what you do better, be a better person, be slightly more successful, be more satisfied in your work. Something that's going to help them, get through the day or get through life with a little more success. If you have some alpha that you could share.
Success equals responsibility, I think, and having responsibility is big to success, I feel like, and a purpose. And so if you're not wanting to have kids, get a pet, something you're responsible for. I think it forces you to live your life a little bit differently. And the other thing I would say is think about what is truly valuable in this world and like what is finite, and that's time. And so be more mindful of your time and don't spend an hour and 15 minutes talking to these morons like I did today. I'm just kidding. Find something, but really like be mindful of your time. Like really think about what you want to accomplish in life, where you want to be when you're at a certain time, and hold yourself accountable to that. And if you can't hold yourself accountable to that, hold yourself accountable to a puppy who's accountable to you. And those are the secrets to my version of whatever happy life I have.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you guys.
Here.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Everybody go to uponly.tv/FTX. By the way, we'll link up Bob's Twitter and everything. He's got some good takes. Like he said, open book on the internet. Go to uponly.tv/FTX. Make a trade there today with 0 fees directly from one asset to the other. Track your portfolios you've known and loved since 2014. And of course, you can earn yield on your tokens as well, all on FTX. uponly.tv/FTX. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, dudes.